guess what? We're live, and it's Saturday, and that can only mean one thing. It's time for What We That Was. What We That Was. This week, as well as talking about, again, American gun crime, stuff going on in various countries around the world, including Australia, India, and various other places. We've also got a new feature at the end, which is no longer called Funnies. It's called And Finally, where we look at the more amusing things that I found on the internet, including a very bizarre alleged Facebook police department conversation. More of that in probably about an hour and a half, 2 hours. Anyway, we're going to kick off with the normal news, which is basically the week's news. And we're going to start off with the news that occurred on Saturday, because Saturday is the first day, Sunday even. No, Saturday. No, it's Sunday. Hang on, what are we doing? Saturday today, but we look at Sunday's news first. Yeah, nearly caught myself out then, because I was tired last week, but I'm more awake this week, you'll be pleased to hear. So yeah, we're going to look at the news. Now, I try and look lightheartedly at the news, but I'll be honest with you, it's been very depressing, the news recently, and there's not a lot of good news going on, which is one reason why I do the at finally at the end as well. But a few things that we'll get out of the way first, including the bizarre fact that who knew that all political parties are basically the same. For example, 9 Labour Party members quit roles saying a London click select Bolton general election candidate. So basically, this is a surprise, but apparently the Labour Party select people who they want to be the candidate for an area above the people who actually are the Labour members and run the Labour Party in that area. Who knew? Lisa Nandy, anybody? Allegedly. No, we know it's true. Anyway, 9 of them have resigned because of this, because of the Bolton election coming up. And I say fair play to them. Maldivian airspace has been closed today after reconnaissance drone or balloon has flown into the country. There's a lot of this going on at the minute. It's like everyone's suddenly discovered balloon technology, even though it's been around since the 1700s. But apparently, it's all scary and new now. But now we go on to the true news. And the death toll from the horrendous earthquake, earthquakes, there was 2, in Syria and in Turkey, has now gone up to, at the time of this Sunday, at the time of Sunday even, the time of Sunday, is that even a thing? I don't know if it's a thing or not. 33,000, and they're saying it could double. I fear it's going to triple, because there are so many small villages that they've still not got to yet, particularly in Syria, where the houses are not built that well. But anyway, it does slowly increase during the course of the week, unfortunately. MPs accuse the chair of the BBC in significant errors of judgment over the Boris loan, and they say it's a little bit Banana Republic, which is a really good underrated song by the Boomtown Rats. True. The tragic murder of Brianna in, well, not far from here actually, on the outskirts of Warrington. A boy and a girl, both aged 15, which is unbelievable, have been arrested for the alleged murder of Brianna, and one hopes that justice is done. It's just horrible. Another UFO is shot down over Canada. But what are these UFOs? You know what? We find out in a bit, and I'll tell you what, it's not what you think. Or it might be, I don't know, it depends on where you think. Monday came along, or Mump Day as I like to call it. And what happened on Monday? Well, quite a bit. It's busy, to be fair, it's been a busy week this week, particularly in America. Oh God, it's been so busy in America. Anyway, the death toll tragically has now risen on Monday to 37,000, and Syria have actually opened border crossings, or allowed border crossings at places that they do not normally allow border crossings to occur. So even Syria are thinking that this is serious and we need help. 4 shooting down now of various different bizarre, strange, unidentified flying objects across America and Canada. Again, no idea what they are. Not yet, anyway. We didn't do on Monday, but the the White House did say no indication of alien interference. You're alright, Angela. I've only just started, so don't worry about it. You've got your key lock in the wrong way around as well. But don't worry about it. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It happens. China say that US have sent 10 balloons over their land, and they've not kicked up a fuss about it. It doesn't make any sense, does it? Brianna stabbed in Culcheth has been described now as on Monday as not a hate crime. However, it did turn out on Monday that Brianna was a trans woman, trans girl, only 16 years old, still at school, and you kind of wonder what kind of life that something like that puts you through, and yeah, just horrendous. I am Marty Hopkirk. Hope you're good as well. Mum, yeah, that's all you're gonna get, I'm afraid. My mum, yeah, my mum's, yeah. Tuesday pops along as it normally does after Monday. One of the things you can rely on. Well, what am I doing here? Pop. Click back on that. Look at that. Close that little gap off. There we go. So yeah, Tuesday came along, and the death toll, horrendous death toll, in Turkey, Syria has now risen to above 40,000. But thoughts are now turning to the people who've survived. More aid is being sent in, and it is very difficult to do that in northern Syria, unfortunately. Meanwhile, in the UK, the demand for workers is outstripping the amount of workers who are looking for work, which I find a bit bizarre considering there's over 3 million people, or around about 3 million people, unemployed at the moment. Surely there can't be like 4 million jobs up for grabs, but you never know. Sadly, Ford have announced many job cuts, 1,300 in the UK and 380 in total in Europe, as they restructure and basically take the majority of their work back to America, USA first, which is something that Trump kind of started going on about. Anyway, it's still going on now. Meanwhile, in Wales, the Welsh government to scrap your road building, any new roads or anything, to save the environment. Any roads that are going to be built in the future will have to be carbon neutral and go through some significant tests to make sure that it's not detrimental to the environment, which basically means no new roads in Wales, which is a shame because of all the places I drive around, Wales is a place that probably could do with some new roads, particularly to get to some places that are really nice and you want to get to. Police now say that the Brianna murder is now considered a hate crime. It wasn't at first, but now it's considered a hate crime by Tuesday. The 15-year-old girl and boy currently being questioned at this point. Then we've got new laws in Russia for dissent over the Ukraine war. So basically, if you protest in any way, shape or form, or if you put anything on social media or anything similar, and you dissent the fact that Russia is doing this illegal war on your behalf whilst you're in Russia, you could get sent to prison for many, many years. And we are talking 10 years plus. But on a lighter note, and this is hilarious, South Park have took the piss out of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle because, well, let's be honest, they're an easy target at the moment. We want our privacy. Stop looking at us. Say the boards that they hold up on the show when they go on, but they're continually being interviewed everywhere, all over the place, and everything. Exactly like what we've been saying for quite a while now. You want your privacy, well, fair enough, but stop rubbing everyone up by saying stuff. Basically, what's the hashtag? Oh yeah, that's it. Shut up, Harry. And South Park have done us a great favour, I think, in this respect. And I must admit, I liked South Park when it first come on for the first couple of series, and then they brought that movie out, and I didn't like it after that. What was it? Bigger, longer, and uncut. But yeah, I went off it after that. But now I'm back on board again. Wednesday. What happened on Wednesday? Well, on Wednesday we had the excitement of Nicola Sturgeon, who was the leader of the SNP. Good evening, Stavros, leader of the SNP and the First Minister of Scotland. And basically, someone just had one thing on her mind, one thing on her agenda. That was it, and that was getting Scotland to no longer be part of the United Kingdom, i.e., to have a referendum and then leave the United Kingdom because they didn't want to be part of a bigger country where they didn't have control of their own laws and everything. But she also wanted to join Europe, which is joining an even bigger thing where you've got even less control of your laws and stuff. Anyway, she's finally decided now that it's not good for her anymore being the leader and the First Minister, so she is quitting in the near future, and a replacement is being sought. Now, she replaced Alex Salmond, so I'm wondering if there's anyone in the SNP called cod, herring, haddock, anything like that, just to keep the fish thing going. I think it would be funny if we could do that. A lot of people have said one of the things that has brought her down has been her rather weird stance on making it easier to become a trans person, i.e. 6 months instead of 2 years, no medical tests, no psychological tests, nothing. You just decide. And then there was that kerfuffle with the man who raped a few women whilst a man, but whilst waiting trial transitioned to be a woman and then got put in a woman's prison. And we're like, no, that's not how things work. And then you've got the NHS, which is completely screwed in Scotland, more so than it is down here. Education, drug taking, crime, knife crime, and all that kind of thing is rife. All she's done is try to get Scotland to leave the United Kingdom, and I think she's finally realised that, yeah, it's not going to happen. So, bye. I'll miss her lots. Nicola who? A bizarre thing happened regarding the Nicola Booley missing case. There was this weird press conference where they said that Nicola had issues with alcohol due to menopausal issues, and I don't understand what that's got to do with anyone being missing. I mean, that's something that they know, something that they can act on and think, right, okay, this is a vulnerable person who's borderline alcoholic, suffering from depression as well, one would assume, on HRT, not doing the HRT, and all this, and they're telling us all this, and we're like, do we need to know this? What we need to know is, have you found her, dead or alive? If not, what are you doing to find her? And if you're not doing enough, then maybe get another police force involved, because I'll be honest with you, from what I've seen up to Wednesday, the whole thing has been, well, it's like hot fuzz doing it. It's a tragic case of a mother of 2 kids going missing, and they've been saying after a week, oh, she fell in the river, and trying to say that's the end of it, she's fell in the river. They can't find her in the river, and then they're saying, well, we're keeping our minds open, and then they come out with all this crap, and I'm like, I wouldn't want my personal details, if I'd gone missing, being given out, if I had severe mental health issues or alcohol issues, or issues to do with, obviously being a bloke, you don't get the menopause, but you do get other issues as well going on, like, oh well, he was suffering from impotence, so he was being prescribed stuff and blah 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 blah. they also admitted that they'd been out a couple of weeks before she went missing because they were concerned for her welfare. But they didn't do anything, and it's just a complete. Oh, it's just pathetic. I mean, Lancashire Police, I keep saying Wigan is not really, doesn't feel like a part of Greater Manchester. We feel more like a part of. I've said that Greater Manchester Police isn't that great either, is it? But yeah, Lancashire Police, you're not covering yourself with any glory here. Again, the tragic story in Turkey/Syria is 41,000 people dead, but a 77-year-old was removed from the rubble and alive, which is amazing. I mean, considering the temperature falls and everything, it's amazing that anyone has survived even a week, and this is longer than a week now. Sadly, Raquel Welch has died, aged 82, famous actress, particularly in the 60s and 70s, where she basically single-handedly made the bikini popular. So a lot of men have a lot to thank her for. I don't particularly, but The two 15-year-olds appeared in court charged with the murder of Brianna. Meanwhile, vigils were held not just in the area but around the country for her as well, which I think is a really nice thing to do. Doesn't bring anyone back, but it just shows respect and shows the family that people respect Brianna and what she was doing. She was a social media influencer as well. She had a few thousand followers, and yeah, it's just a horrible case. And if it was a hate crime, and it was these two 15-year-olds, where in the world have we gone wrong in basically letting 15-year-olds think it's okay to knife someone and kill them? It wasn't one knife stabbing. They stabbed them. I think they stabbed her 16 times or something daft like that. Where have we gone wrong as a society that 15-year-olds think A, they can do that, and B, it's okay to do that? Because you're not going to do that if you know it's not okay and you're going to get caught. I mean, it's one thing for name calling, we've all been called names over the years, but for two 15-year-olds to end a 16-year-old's life because allegedly, well, not allegedly, the because is allegedly that she was a transgender, it doesn't bear thinking about. As I've always said, it doesn't matter who you are, what you believe in, or anything like that. If you want to live your life A, B, C or D, then you live it that way, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. It just sickens me that we're at that stage where 15-year-olds think it's okay to kill someone because they may not agree with their life choice. And I seriously hope that if it is them two, that they are not released before they're in the 60s, because there's no excuse. I think society's failed. I think knife crime, as I've said before, in the UK is an issue. I mean, it's not as big an issue as gun crime in America, which we'll come to later on, but it's still an issue. And people like Brianna should not suffer such a horrific situation because they've chose a lifestyle which other people might not agree with, but isn't necessarily a choice for the individual. If you're born in the wrong body and you feel you're born in the wrong body, that's not a thing you've chosen. That's just the thing you are. It's like if you're gay, bisexual, asexual, if you're born into a Muslim family, if you're born into a Christian family, Sikh family, whatever. You're not always born into something that you can live with, and you have to make changes to make yourself comfortable. And I don't understand why people can't see that, and that's what disturbs me a lot about this. More so the fact that they were 15-year-olds, if it is them who've done it, and if it is proven, and they get found guilty for doing it. Anyway. Whew. Someone goes out quick with a weapon, then they know what they're doing. Yes, exactly, Angela. I've said before, when I was 16, 17, I carried a knife, not to attack anyone, but to protect myself, because I'm walking through some dodgy places where I look now and yeah, it wasn't dodgy at all. But then after about 3 days of doing it, I realised that if I ever pulled a knife on someone who was going to mug me, I'd probably be the one I ended up getting stabbed because, I was a 9 stone weakling. I'd never had a fight in my life. My arms, well, they're not much bigger now than what they were then. So I wouldn't have had a chance. So I'd drop the knife thing, and I just, But I think nowadays I think you're considered soft if you don't have a knife, and I think that's a problem. A bit like in America, if you don't have a gun, then you're not American. That seems to be the way it is. But hopefully we can stamp it out, and fingers crossed, and blah blah blah. Anyway, Thursday. There was a BBC interview, Jon Snow, who's been around for like 1 billion years. I mean, he was in bloody Game of Thrones, wasn't he? And that was thousands of years ago, and he's still going strong now. He's put a bit of weight on. His hair's not black anymore. It's grey. Doesn't have the beard. Don't think there's any dragons around. And he's interviewing Zelensky, and he says the war is not. No, he says. Zelensky says if they get to discussions about, a peace treaty or whatever, he's not going to let Russia have any of the land it's illegally took since February last year. Reading between the lines, I think he's quite interested in getting Crimea back as well. We'll have to wait and see if it ever gets to the negotiation stage. I can't imagine it would do. But we'd have to give it a thought. He also said as well that Belarus are possibly allowing Russia to use their land again for another offensive from the north down towards Kyiv. And the Belarus president, when asked this question by another BBC reporter, basically didn't deny it, and also said that he would be quite happy for his army to get involved with the war if any Ukrainians or any other non-Belarus soldiers step 1 foot on their land. So they would go to war for that, but they support Russia doing exactly the same thing to another country. I mean, we get rid of Russia, we get rid of Putin, we need to get rid of Belarus as well, I'm sorry. But I mean, if that's the mentality of a leader of a country, that, yeah, if anyone sets foot in here, we're going to go to war with that country, but we'll help another country that isn't our country step foot into another country that isn't their country, and we'll support them, it beggars belief. It is like cuckoo land. It's madness. So yeah, I expect to fall out of a high-rise building at some point in the future. But I don't care, because I'll be honest with you, they both need sorting out. I know I said something rude. Well, not rude, but Anyway, Rishi Sunak, remember him? Do you remember how every day used to be oh my God, what is going on with the UK government? And now it's like, oh, Rishi, yeah, I forgot he was Prime Minister. He did a surprise evening visit to Belfast, possibly to do with the Northern Ireland Protocol, which is the so-called border between England and Wales and Scotland, and any imports into Northern Ireland, because they don't want a border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, so we have the border in the sea instead, which is what Boris agreed to. But both the EU and the United Kingdom as a whole have agreed that this isn't really working. So now they're on about possibly doing a green goods and red goods. So green goods would be goods that are only going into Northern Ireland specifically for the Northern Ireland market, i.e. stuff for the United Kingdom. And red goods would be goods that were going there but may end up being shipped over the border to basically Europe, which is the Republic of Ireland, where then it can travel around the rest of Europe without any checks. So it's quite complicated. But anyway, he went over there, and we had no idea what he was doing. We were just surmised that's what he was doing. Meanwhile, the day after all these revelations about Nicola Bulley, the family have said, look, she may have had issues. They've now been made public, They were aware that they were going to be made public before they were made public. Whether or not they agreed to it is another thing. But they said the main thing is we need to find her, and it's right. The main issue is that this poor woman has been missing now for more than 3 weeks. She may be dead, she may be alive, but we haven't found her yet. And that is the most important thing. We need, for the family, we need to find where she is or what happened to her. And all this nonsense about what's going on with her mental health and everything is I mean, they could say she had mental health issues and alcoholic issues. They didn't have to go into detail the way they did. It was shocking. Anyway, the police have referred themselves to the IOPC, which is the complaints department within the police, independent complaints department within the police. Not regarding the disclosure of all the information. No, the fact that they went to Nicola's house, I think 17 days before she went missing, and well, no action was taken, and there was no follow-ups or anything. So yeah, again, we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. But definitely wish the family an outcome to this. Hopefully, a positive outcome. But as time goes on, you do worry. Meanwhile, 4 candidates have come forwards now, possibly as the new First Secretary and the leader of the SNP. We wait with Betha Brayton for the exciting news of whom it is going to be. Where are we? Bruce Willis. 2 of my favourite films of all time are Bruce Willis films, which is, I know it's sad, but Die Hard and Die Hard 2. Anyway, sadly, he's been diagnosed with dementia, and yeah, all we can do is wish him well. He had another. He was diagnosed last year with, and he stopped working with a brain condition where his speech was severely impaired and his reading was severely impaired as well. But it's now been diagnosed as dementia, and obviously we all know the outcome of that. But yeah, fingers crossed for the family that something comes up along the way. Now, where are we? Here we are. Centrica, the people who own British Gas, gotta love them. They posted record profits of over £3 billion. £3 billion. British Gas, of which I am a customer, unfortunately, they only represented 2% of that. It was basically the manufacturer of power, i.e. gas and electricity, that made the majority of their money, and that is because the prices are artificially high due to the war, allegedly, although at the moment they are lower now than what they were before the Ukraine war started, yet our prices are still going up at the end of March. How this works, I have no idea. But yeah, 3.3 billion. You can see in 2021 it was less than 1 billion. I mean, $1 billion is not a small amount of money. 0.4 billion, 0.7 billion. So you see, 3.3 billion is just a ridiculous amount of money. And the people who are making the money are the people who are basically screwing everyone else. And again, shouldn't be allowed. Should not be allowed. There should be stuff we can do to stop this. However, apparently, our hands are tied. Oh, poor President Zelensky. I mean, you know, you're in the middle of a horrendous war that was not caused by yourself. Thousands of your people are living in cold without lighting and heating. You get Boris popping up every now and then thinking he's the Prime Minister. And then you get Keir Starmer turning up. I mean, for God's sake, has the man not suffered enough? Keir Starmer went there and, I mean, he's... I've no idea why. You know, he's an opposition leader. He's not been in government. He's got no power for government. What he said was if he does become Prime Minister, the support will continue, which I suppose is reassuring in a way. But, I mean, Zelensky had to meet him. And let's be honest, he comes across like he's got the personality of a corpse. It's scary that we've allowed him over there. I mean, I say, Zelensky suffered enough. Horrendous. Anyway, Friday came along. Again, it usually does after Thursday. It's what happens. And what happened on Friday? Well, who knew that a security guard, a British security guard at the British Embassy in Berlin, was selling, information to the Soviets, and he was making quite a lot of money from it because, well, he's Scottish heritage, and he hates Britain and everything to do with Britain. So he thought, I can get at Britain and I can make some money out of this as well. Anyway, he was caught in a sting operation. He was only a security guard at the gatehouse. He wasn't like, inside doing stuff. Although he did film the outside of the buildings and sent that off to them. But he's been sentenced to over 30 years in prison for basically treason. Want a better description? And yes, good riddance. Throw away the key. Thank you very much. Let's move on to Manchester United. Now, as you know, I'm a big follower of football. I also tell fibs as well. Anyway, it turns out that Manchester United has had 2 confirmed bids. One from Ineos owner and a Brit, and one from Qatar. Basically, a family in Qatar who want to buy into it, who say that we're long life fans of Man United. Now, the problem you've got with Qatar is the same as what we had with the World Cup. Human rights abuses, that's basically it. The way they treat women, the way they treat migrants, the way they treat people who are not them, not the rich elite. And one hopes that the Glaciers, who are, let's be honest, probably not, I was going to word the C word then, not the small C word, the big C word that ends in upt. I don't know who they would choose. I would hope they'd choose the British guy, because A, he's a Brit, Man United's British, and B, as far as I know, Ineos has not gone round, executing people or making people disappear or anything like that. He's been quite good. He's actually employed people, and okay, yeah, he has Lewis Hamilton as one of his employees indirectly, but we can forgive him for that. Anyway, we wait with breath to see what happens there. Last bids were due in at 10 p.m. and they were the only 2 bids confirmed at the time. But it turns out it wasn't really a big last bid thing. It was like a preliminary last bid. So make of that what you will. Anyway, one with the biggest offer. Yeah, probably will be the one with the biggest offer. The problem is, I don't think. I mean, Man United itself is a very tolerant team, and one would assume, Kim, that they've got a lot of gay fans, they've got a lot of fans from all over the world, to be fair, and would not Qatar owning it alienate those people? Because it's illegal to be gay in Qatar. Anyone found to be gay is severely punished. Even if you visit and you've got a boyfriend and you're a bloke and you've got a boyfriend, you can't show affection outside. To be fair, they've probably got cameras in the hotel room as well, so you can't show affection inside. It is just not a very nice place, and I think it would alienate a lot of people. And I think, like we've had the Glaciers out protests, I think pretty soon we'd have the Qataris out, whoever they are. They're in billions of debt, so they need the money. Yeah. To be fair, the Qataris have the British guy said if he buys it, it's a cash bid, and there'd be no debt. But talking of which, Sean, Everton out of the relegation zone. Well done, Wigan. Right back at the bottom again, despite a fairly decent result against one of the top teams. Not that I follow football. Meanwhile, Rishi has now gone to... where's he gone? He's gone somewhere. Where's he gone? In Munich. Oh, this is today. Oh, God. Hang on. Hang on. I forgot to do this last week. I got that excited that I remembered stuff that I completely forgot to do that last week. And no one noticed. Anyway, you didn't notice that. So, the PM, Rishi, remember him, is in Munich to talk about upping supplying weapons and support to Ukraine. Radcliffe is a big United fan as well. He is, he's a massive United fan. The PM also says talks are ongoing with Europe regarding the Northern Ireland Protocol. So fingers crossed that both them things will get sorted. And it's nice to see that even a year on we're still supporting Ukraine. Meanwhile, in Turkey, 45,000 have been confirmed to have died, with thousands still missing. And like I've said before, in Syria, I reckon it's going to be absolutely horrendous there once the full numbers come out. That's assuming the full numbers actually come out, because I'm not sure they will. PM also said about Nicola that it was unusual for a police force to come out with so much detail about the mental health of someone. So if the PM's involved, things are definitely going to go wrong, I think. Has to be said. Meanwhile, in France, border control are on strike, and 6.5 hour waits to get through customs to come back to Britain. Now, when our lot went on strike, we were a lot better than that, weren't we? I've jumped some stuff here, haven't I? Yeah, I've jumped some stuff here. So yeah, that's Rishi in Munich. So what we need to do is why have I got myself all confuzzled? I don't normally get myself this confuzzled. We'll go back to Friday because there's still a couple of things left on Friday. That's why I got confuzzled. I jumped a little bit. Yeah, that's when PM said about Nicola's concerns from the PM regarding what was being said about Nicola. Major concerns about building in Turkey in particular, where they're supposed to have rules where buildings are built to a certain standard to withstand earthquakes. Now, maybe not necessarily the earthquake they had, because it was a huge earthquake and very shallow, but there are areas where lots of tower blocks were built at the same time by the same builders to the same specifications. Some have completely collapsed, some have remained completely untouched, and others have either part collapsed or have got structural damage to them. And people are saying that there was a lot of the Turkey government saying you've got to build buildings secure for earthquakes because we live in a really earthquake prone area, but then taking bungs from builders so that they can cut corners. So instead of making the concrete so strong, they make it less strong, which makes it cheaper for them, and that's the concrete that's given way. And there was reports, again can't confirm, but reports given that there were places where buildings had concrete supports that you could literally put your hand on and rub up and down, and the concrete would come away. Now, how that's meant to withstand an earthquake, I have no idea. But I think, well, I don't know. The government would probably cover it all up, but there should be questions being asked. I know one of the developers has been arrested in Turkey, although no one's sure what the charges are. Meanwhile, in Scotland, there were some rather severe winds causing some damage and disruption from Storm Otto, which did more damage up in Norway and that kind of thing, but it just skimmed the north of the United Kingdom, causing some minor havoc, but havoc nonetheless. And that basically ends the news for that. Whoop woo. So, you'll be pleased to hear, next up is government taking backhanders. Oh my God, we don't see that in the UK. Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, you say governments. It's more than just governments, isn't it? Council. Anyway, meanwhile, in America, and oh my God, there's so much stuff to get through. I might do this like I do India, which is just basically go bang, 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 because otherwise we're going to be until 3 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, oh, wrong one. Oh no, I've lost it now. I've lost it. Where are we? There we go. It's not easy doing a live show, you know, with no rehearsal, no nothing. Now, bearing in mind, this was reported in America. Okay, just saying. King Charles's new coronation emblem revealed for the first time. Now, I've got a couple of problems with this. One is King Charles's new coronation emblem. Has he got an old coronation emblem? Asking for a friend. And the other one was, why has it been reported in America and not necessarily that much over here? Anyway, Buckingham Palace unveiled King Charles's new emblem on Friday, just 4 months ahead of his historic coronation. The design, which features a blue crown entombed within a field of red, stylised flowers, represents the King's love of the natural world, the palace said. They should have just had a picture of Sir David Attenborough there. That would have sussed it, wouldn't it? It's also got the thistle, the daffodil, the... I don't know what they are. They look like thistles as well, but I would have thought a rose and other stuff. Anyway, yeah. Take a drink every time there's a shooting. Yeah, unfortunately, Sean, we would be. Pet emu escapes home, evades Massachusetts police for hours. Now remember, this Massachusetts last week featured a lot, but not for escaped emus, for gun crime and cop crime and all that kind of stuff. A wicked pet emu. Why is it wicked? It's just a pet emu. It's not wicked. Ran the coop in Massachusetts, causing an hours-long police chase to ensue. The flightless bird, which is native to Australia and related to the ostrich, escaped from its home in East Bridgewater, just south of Boston, by jumping over a 6-foot fence. It can't jump. The emu ran for a home all the way to neighbouring Brockton. They can do about 35 miles an hour, so it wasn't easy to keep up, said a cop in a cop car. Pentagon says US detected third flying object over Alaska a day before shooting down over Canada. The Pentagon released a statement on Saturday outlining how an unidentified high-altitude airborne object was shot down by a US fighter plane in Canada. We'd later find out what these things possibly were. Republicans react to third object shot down over Canada, unprecedented challenge. Republicans are reacting after US forces shot down a high-altitude airborne object, which comes one day after the military shot down a separate object. China mocks Biden for knocking down balloons with fighter jets. Hysterical, laughably juvenile, says China. China's state-owned news outlet mocked President Biden for taking out what it claims are civilian research balloons with fighter jets and blamed partisan bickering for the escapades. A Texas man, now this is how it should be as far as I'm concerned, gun laws and all that. A Texas man has been convicted of capital murder in the fatal shooting of 3 teenagers by the man's then 14-year-old son. So the dad has been convicted of murder by association, and you're like, yep, I think that is the right thing to do, because parents need to be responsible for the guns. Top US general not ruling out aliens after military shoots down 3 UFOs. You would, if this was a movie or whatever, people would laugh at it. The US Air Force general overseeing North America airspace said on Sunday he was not ruling out aliens after a string of shootdowns of unidentified objects. Asked whether he had ruled out extraterrestrial origins for the 3 floating objects shot down by warplanes, General Glenn Van Herrick said, I'll let the intel community and the counterintelligence community figure that I haven't ruled it out. I'm sure if aliens come to Earth, they would do more than just stick balloons up in that higher atmosphere. Elon Musk fears Starlink would be misused to start World War III. We've already started World War III. Russia, Ukraine, China, Taiwan. Keep up. Elon Musk has confirmed he would potentially restrict the use of his Starlink satellite internet service to the Ukraine military to prevent escalation of conflict that may lead to World War III. The space pioneer raised the alarm after former NASA astronaut Scott Kelly challenged him over reports that Starlink would limit access to the war-torn nation's military amid fears it was being weaponized. Yeah. Elon Musk, level-headed guy. China says US flew more than 10 high-altitude balloons over its airspace since 2022, and they weren't asked about it. China said on Monday that US high-altitude balloons have flown over its airspace without permission more than 10 times since the beginning of 2022, winding a diplomatic row after the US military shut down what it says was Chinese spy balloon. Since last year, the US high-altitude balloons have undergone more than 10 illegal flights into Chinese airspace without the approval of the relevant authorities. You still think satellites, don't you? I don't know, okay, if it's cloudy, maybe not. But I mean, if it's cloudy with a high-altitude balloon, you ain't going to see much. If you've been in a plane, I mean, I've only been in a plane flying to Dublin and back again, but I've been over the clouds for about 30 seconds. So yeah, weird. Philippines say China ship used laser to hinder Coast Guard. The Philippines on Monday accused a Chinese Coast Guard ship of hitting a Philippine Coast Guard vessel with a military-grade laser and temporarily blinding some of its crew in the disputed South China Sea, calling it a blatant violation of Manila's sovereign rights. The Chinese ship also manoeuvred dangerously close, about 449 feet, to block the Philippine patrol vessel from approaching. What's this, my balloon's bigger than your balloon? No, my balloon's better at hiding than your balloon. That's what it is. US oil drills in South China Sea amid China-Blue tensions. The United States Navy and Marine Corps are in joint exercises in the South China Sea at the time of heightened tensions between Beijing over the shooting down of a suspected Chinese spy balloon. What could possibly go wrong? Unidentified object shot down over Lake Huron, third in as many days. US fighter jets shot down an unidentified object over Lake Huron on Sunday, marking the third time such action was taken in as many days, and coming on the heels of last week's China spy balloon scandal. Sunday's takedown is believed to have involved an object that was spotted over Montana on Saturday. Yeah, this is going so well, isn't it? Not. Second brother dies after a shooting outside New York City Popeyes. A 37-year-old man who was wounded in broad daylight shooting that left his brother dead in front of a Bronx Popeyes has since died. He was one of 4 people wounded in the shooting around 2:30 p.m. on Friday in front of the restaurant. Again, America, sort your gun laws out. Louisiana police arrested a 19-year-old in targeted Baton Rouge nightclub shooting that left 12 wounded. Police in Baton Rouge, Louisiana arrested 2 19-year-old suspects in connection to the January shooting at DR Bar and Lounge that left 12 wounded. And they've got there, which I think is pretty cool actually, their mugshot, but it says all persons are presumed innocent until proven guilty. And I think we forget that sometimes. Could aliens be source of mystery objects? US hasn't ruled out anything, NORAD chief says. The US has not ruled out an extraterrestrial origin of the objects shot down over US and Canada in recent days. Yeah, right, okay. I think just deflecting from being rubbish. Now, this is one of the most ridiculous things I've never heard of. And now I've heard of it. I think it's ridiculous. But then I'm also thinking, no, it's ridiculous. First infant dropped anonymously. First infant anonymously dropped off a Kentucky baby box surrender location. You can actually drop a baby off, a newborn baby, in that box in Kentucky. So if you have a baby and you don't want to keep it, rather than putting it on a doorstep of someone's house or in a phone box or taking it to a hospital, you can put it in this box in a wall. The first infant in Kentucky was anonymously dropped off at one of the state's baby box safe surrender locations. A 2021 law allows parents to surrender their newborn. I like KFC. I don't have that thought in my head. That's disgusting. Pennsylvania man sentenced up to 30 years in prison after pleading no contest to shooting police chief. A Buck County's Pennsylvania man who pleaded no contest to shooting at a police chief and injuring his hand and ear was sentenced up to 30 years in prison. So yeah, that's a good story. Texas man found guilty of murder after teenage son shoots and kills 3 in convenience store. This is the story we had before. Richard Acosta, 34, was found guilty of capital murder this week after his son shot and killed 3 people at a convenience store in December. And again, like I say, rightly so, if you've got guns and you can't keep control of them, then you deserve everything you get. Mars are fined after 2 workers almost drowned in a vat of chocolates. Emergency services had to create a hole in the bottom of the tank to free the outside contractors, who were then rushed to hospital and 1 airlifted by helicopter. I mean, that is thankfully they were okay, but that is definitely a Willy Wonka style incident, isn't it? Anonymous, why do they keep using this word? Donor gives stunning $30 million toward earthquake victims. What a way to go that would have been. Yeah, I suppose. There are worse ways to go than being drowned in a vat of chocolate. But I'd be like, I can't drown here. I'm lactose sensitive. Kind of thing. An anonymous donor contributed a stunning $30 million to the victims of 2 powerful earthquakes that have devastated Turkey and Syria, leaving more than 1 million displaced and tens of thousands dead. Pakistan Prime Minister Sharif revealed on Saturday. The donor walked into the Turkish embassy in the United States to make the hefty donation, as the death toll from the quakes has exceeded at this point 33,000. You've got it though. Body cam released in police custody death of Tyree Williams. 6 Raleigh, North Carolina police officers were placed on administrative leave after a man died in their custody last month, and new release body cam shows them repeatedly use stun guns on him, even as he told them he had heart problems. Yeah, it's America, sort your police out. Dramatic video shows Harlem smoke shop shooting victims' last moments. America, sort your gun laws out. Dramatic surveillance footage captures the horrendous aftermath of a fatal shooting at Harlem smoke shop, basically vape shop, showing the victim stumbling across the street and collapsing in a pool of blood. And this is normal in America. They're desensitised from it. It's just unbelievable. Russian soldiers dying at highest rates since the beginning of the war, says the UK government. Russia's army is currently losing soldiers at the highest rate since the first week of the war almost a year ago. A remarkable 824 troops are dying each day, UK officials say. How they don't, I have no idea. Yeah, it's just horrendous. Where are we? There we go. Timing of US spy balloon sailing over the US was no coincidence. A Republican congressman suggested that the Chinese spy balloon that traversed the nation earlier this month was intended to humiliate the United States during a Secretary of State Attorney Blinken's planned high-stake meeting in Beijing. be fair, they've sent many over before and they've not seen them before. I don't understand why that would be a thing. Former Eminem stunt double Ryan Shepherd fatally hit by a truck. A former stunt double for the rapper Eminem. Why has Eminem got a stunt double? Has been struck by a pickup truck while trying to cross the street. Ryan Shepherd, 40, had toured as a stand-in for Slim Shady in his 2002 Anger Management Tour, and also flew into the MTV Movie Awards as the rapper's superhero alter ego, Rapper Boys. TMZ reported he was rushed to hospital following the tragic accident in Washington State. Yeah, I mean, Putin's got a double, so I suppose Eminem can have one as well. Maybe. Turkey arrests building contractors 6 days after earthquakes. As rescuers still pulled a few people from the rubble 6 days after a pair of earthquakes devastated southeast Turkey and northern Syria, Turkish officials detained or issued arrest warrants for some 130 alleged people involved in the construction of buildings that toppled down and crushed the occupants. And again, rightly so, but it's not just them, is it? They've been allowed to get away with it. It's the government who've allowed them to get away with it. At least 4 people shot in violent Saturday night in New York City. America, sort your guns out loud. At least 4 people were shot, 1 fatally at the weekend of violence continued. Police and sources said there have been at least 20 shootings or stabbings in all 5 of the city's boroughs in just the last 2 days, causing at least 3 deaths. A man was fatally shot at Harlem Smoke Shop near the busy intersection on 125th Street and 5th Avenue shortly after 10 p.m. Why would you want to go to America again? I mean, seriously. The number of times we read these out and it's someone, innocent bystander who's been shot. Experts say green laser beams spotted off Hawaii came from a Chinese satellite. Experts believe that a Chinese satellite fired down green laser beams that were spotted over Hawaii last month amid growing tensions between the US and China. Yeah, I don't understand quite what. It looks more like the Matrix than anything to me. Maybe China are saying, we own you, we're the Matrix. Shots fired at Michigan State campus prompts students and staff lockdown. Students and staffers at Michigan State University were ordered to secure in place after shots were fired on campus on Monday night. There have been shots fired near Berkeley Hall on the East Lansing campus. America, just do it, please. Mask hysteria. These New York City holdouts are still waiting for a time when we can all go maskless. Sunday marked the end of another COVID-era restriction. Hospital and nursing homes in New York will no longer require masks to enter. We are in a period of transition. COVID is a treatable, preventable disease. This version of it is. I'm not sure COVID itself is treatable or preventable. You can still get COVID even if you've had a gazillion vaccines. It just stops you, well, reduces the risk of you getting a bad case of it and dying. But yeah, COVID, yeah. Still think. Balloons. US shot down small metallic balloon over northwest Canada. The American military shot down a small metallic balloon over Canada on Saturday, the Pentagon wrote in a memo to lawmakers, offering one of the first descriptions of one of the 3 mystery objects downed over consecutive days. The memo has said the balloon, previously described as cylindrical object, crossed near US sensitive sites before it was shot and brought to the ground. Balloons, really? Biden has no plans to address nation on flying objects after directing 4 shootdowns in 8 days. After ordering the military to bring down 4 suspicious objects over US airspace in little over a week, President Biden has no plans to explain his decisions to the American public. Well, that's good. At least he can't fluff his lines on that, can he, if he's not doing it. Video claims to show Russian mercenary executed by sledgehammer. And you're like, what? A gruesome video released on Monday claimed to show a Russian mercenary who fled while fighting in Ukraine being executed with a sledgehammer, although the group behind the footage is now claiming it was a joke. Um, yeah, it's a funny joke, isn't it? But again, what you do believe. US military's first shot at unknown octagonal object over Lake Huron missed. The first attempt to take down an unknown object over Lake Huron, Michigan, missed, officials said on Monday. These missiles are $400,000 a pop, and it missed a balloon, which had no evasive manoeuvres available to it. US Navy recovers significant portion of Chinese spy balloon off South Carolina, defense official says. So yeah, basically the first balloon they shot down, which is one we've seen many times, they've recovered quite a lot of it now. Tennessee girl, high school class president, shot to death coming home from basketball game. Christine Michael, a 17-year-old high school girl student and president of her class, was fatally shot while she was returning from a basketball game. America, how many people have to die before you wake up to what is going on in your country? A second dead whale found miles from offshore wind farm in less than a week. The second dead whale was discovered in less than a week in Virginia Beach, Virginia, miles from one of the wind farms in federal waters. The mystery deepens. White House says it's navigating uncharted territory after being pushed for explanation on UFOs. The Biden administration was pressed for an explanation on the UFO shot down by the Air Force over the weekend, and they come up with nothing because, well, it's a non-story, is it, UFOs? Race against time. Bitter cold threatens survivors after deadly quakes kill more than 35,000 at this point in Turkey and Syria. Freezing temperatures are putting rescuers in a race against time to pull as many people as they can from the rubble of collapsed buildings in a series of powerful earthquakes. Yeah, you can't imagine if you've survived that and you're underneath, you're in a little pocket somewhere and you're underneath that, and then you've got the freezing temperatures, no food, no one can eat you because you're buried. It must be horrendous, literally being buried alive. Absolutely awful. A German ballet director suspended for smearing dog poop on newspaper's critic's face. I'll read that again. German ballet director suspended for smearing dog poop on newspaper critic's face. A German ballet director has been suspended for smearing dog feces all over the face of a newspaper critic who had written a scathing review of his recent production. Mario Greitsch, the ballet director and head choreographer of the Hanover State Opera, confronted the critic for the Frankfurter newspaper, and how they managed to get dog poop to wherever that happened, I have no idea. Obviously premeditated. A teen pulls gun on fellow students in Lower Manhattan High School. A teenage student threatened another boy with a gun inside a public high school in the West Village on Monday afternoon, police and law enforcement sources have said. The 18-year-old pulled out a black revolver on a 17-year-old student inside the high school. America, sort yourselves out. Seriously. Kids taking guns into a school and getting into a school with guns. US-China speak privately over spy balloon concerns, but military channels remain shut. The US has aired its concerns to Chinese leaders over Beijing's recent deployment of a spy balloon into American airspace. Yeah, you can think this thing's just going to go on and on and on, but nothing's actually going to come out of it. It's just going to be one of them things that just goes on and on and on. Fired Russian General Vladimir Markov dies in apparent suicide. So, a fired Russian general dies in a suicide. Wow, that's unusual. A senior Russian general has died of an apparent suicide in Moscow suburb early Monday, just weeks after he was reportedly sacked by President Putin. Russian Minister of the Interior, General Vladimir Makarov, 72, was found dead in the village of Glakio, Russian state news agency reported. Markov's wife, Valentina, found her husband with self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. Seems to happen a lot, doesn't it, in Russia? You fall out with Putin, and then you commit suicide. No indication of aliens in spate of shootdowns, White House claims. Claims? It's fucking obvious. Me. White House press secretary said that the US government has no indication of aliens in the downing of 3 unidentified flying objects of the US and Canada. One day after a top general said he couldn't rule it out. I mean, seriously. The lunatics have taken over the asylum, haven't they? It's scary. It really is. Videos show Russian losing dozens of armoured vehicles in Ukrainian ambush. Graphic drone footage appears to show dozens of Russian armoured vehicles getting ambushed and destroyed during a single botched attack near the coal mining town of Vilhelda in eastern Ukraine, which Moscow forces have been trying to capture for months. The Ukrainian stronghold at the strategic intersection between the eastern and southern front lines has seen some of the bloodiest battles of recent times. I mean, you've got to feel for the families of the soldiers who are waiting at home, but at the end of the day, they shouldn't be there. Multiple people struck by U-Haul truck in Brooklyn. Multiple pedestrians were struck and a cyclist was dragged by a U-Haul truck in Brooklyn Monday morning, police said. The out-of-control truck and an unknown number of people named the 5th Avenue and Bay Ridge partway around 11 a.m. according to the police. The driver then sped off but was caught. More of that very soon. Americans warned to leave Russia as State Department issues do not travel alert. The State Department has told any US citizens still in Russia to leave immediately due to the ongoing war in Ukraine. Why are any Americans still in Russia? And at the risk of harassment and incarceration at the hands of the Kremlin security officials. US citizens residing or travelling in Russia should depart immediately. Exercise increased caution due to the risk of wrongful detentions. I would have thought that would be a no-brainer. Maybe. Top US general not ruling out aliens, even though they've already said. We've already done that one, haven't we? We'll ignore that. Pretend that never happened. We'll move on. One of the victims of the U-Haul rampage in Brooklyn has died from his injuries. One of the victims mowed down in the Brooklyn Monday by a crazed man driving a U-Haul truck has died. The victim, a 44-year-old man on an e-bike, succumbed to his injuries hours after the rampage that left 7 others injured. Yeah. Again, why people do stuff like this is beyond me. Family of maniac U-Haul driver who injured 8 people speaks out and say he's crazy. The crazed U-Haul driver who allegedly mowed down at least 8 people during a violent Brooklyn rampage has a troubled history, including violence and mental illness, and spent time in prison for knifing his brother. Again, do they let people out in America? You know, keep tabs on them or whatever. Professor calls for animals to be represented in court. Law professor and philosopher Martha Nussbaum discussed the benefits of giving animals legal rights and representation in courts during a special segment of a TV programme on Monday. Melba introduced a new segment, Open Mind, where he will debate and discuss somewhat radical ideas with an open mind to learn a new perspective. This one was his first guest, arguing about the benefits of animals having legal rights. Yeah. I think we'll just park that there, shall we? Then never go back to it ever again. Because, I mean, seriously. Some people, what goes on in their head? Michigan State University shooter ID'd as Anthony Dwayne McRae. The crazed mass shooter who shot dead 3 students and left 5 others in a critical condition at Michigan State University was identified as a 43-year-old. America. seriously, why do you let this happen all the time? The wife, this is weird as well, the wife of the doctor who drove family off cliff in Tesla urged prosecutors not to try him. The wife of the Californian doctor accused of intentionally driving his Tesla off a cliff with her and their 2 children aboard has urged authorities not to prosecute him. He pleaded not guilty last week to 3 counts of attempted murder and 2 enforcements for the severe injuries his wife and 7-year-old daughter suffered. But his wife says he shouldn't be prosecuted. Now, I'm sorry, I don't care who you are, but if someone tries to kill me and my children at the same time, as well as themselves, they should be prosecuted. I don't care who they are. There is no excuse for that. And if it finds out that it's a mental illness, then they still should be prosecuted, but that should be taken into consideration and they should be given the correct treatment and the correct incarceration. Train that derailed in Ohio carried more toxic chemicals than initially reported. Who knew? Someone lied on the paperwork. The train that derailed in the small town was carrying more toxic chemicals than initially reported it had been. Where was it? Well, that's it basically. We know about all the rest. But yeah, it's shocking that toxic chemicals can be taken through a town. Trump used an empty folder meant for classified documents as a lampshade. You're like, what? One of the former President Donald Trump's lawyers claimed on Sunday that the ex-commander-in-chief used an empty folder that said classified evening summary to cover a light in his bedroom at Mar-a-Lago. He has one of those landline telephones next to his bed and it has a blue light on it and it keeps him up at night. So he took the manila folder and put it over so it would keep the light down so he could sleep. Weapon industry makes a lot of money, that's why they won't be stopped. Yeah, I suppose, but surely smaller trains more often would be a safer way of doing it rather than the massive long ones that they have. So if anything does happen, it's contained with a smaller amount of stuff. Oh, we've done that one. Oh, hey up, hey up, hey up, hey up, hey up, hey up. What's going on here? What's going on here? It's all gone Pete Tong. British slang for gone wrong. Where are we? I've lost him now. Where's Trump gone? Trump, where are you? Where are you with your silly... Oh, there you are. US military recovers electronic sensors from downed Chinese spy balloon. We've still not heard, even now, what kind of sensors they were. We can only make assumptions on said sensors. Tennessee car burglar begs neighbours for help after injured homeowner returns fire on a group of suspects. A suspect car burglar in Tennessee was arrested after a homeowner who was shot in the ankle returned fire on a group of burglars in his driveway. Again, burglars with guns. You just don't hear of that very often anywhere else other than in America. And they can't see the problem. Michigan Governor Whiteman claims mass shootings are uniquely American problem. Wow, someone's actually got a brain in America. Who knew? Democratic Governor Whitmore of Michigan said on Tuesday morning that words were no longer sufficient and action must be taken to stop rampant gun violence like that seen at Michigan State University, like seen at Sandy Hook, like seen, well, just seen everywhere. I mean, come on. It just goes on and on and on and you don't do anything. Michigan State shooting. A doctor breaks down in tears describing response. EW Sparrow Hospital acting president broke down in tears on Tuesday morning while providing updates on the 5 victims of the mass shooting at Michigan State University. It's not just the shooters, victims that suffer, it's everyone else as well. But you can't see it. Tragedy. Body of Utah teen recovered after he fell through the ice at a reservoir. A 14-year-old Utah teen who fell through the ice at the Settlement Canyon Reservoir has died after rescuers located the boy's body. Again, horrendous. We had a similar situation shortly before Christmas in the UK where 4 younger children lost their lives. And again, we've got to warn children that ice is not a toy. It's just incredibly dangerous. Russia hides Putin health info after keen eye sleuths spot cancer treatment. Medical bills that were previously a matter of public record have suddenly been classified top secret, leading Kremlin watchers to suspect Putin has something to hide. Which Putin though? I mean, we've already decided that there's more than one Putin because that Putin does not look like this Putin. Putin only travels by special armoured trains as he fears assassination. I wonder why. He's such a popular leader. Everyone in Russia loves him. And the rest of the world think he's fabulous. We're jealous that we haven't got him. So why the hell would he think that he's under risk for assassination and therefore will not use aeroplanes and only use armoured trains to travel around his own country? A single dad was ID'd as the man killed in the U-Haul rampage. Again, thoughts with family and friends. Absolutely horrendous. White House taking second look at UFO response after a spate of shootdowns. The Biden administration is revisiting how it handles UFOs after a Chinese spy balloon and 3 smaller objects were shot down over North America in a span of 8 days earlier this month. Basically a few days ago, not earlier this month. The White House on Monday announced the creation of an interagency team to include officials from the Pentagon, the Federal Aviation Administration, the Department of Homeland Security and other parts of the federal government. I mean, yeah, talk about taking this far too seriously. I mean, you know, come on, guys and girls. Give your heads a wobble. Aliens? No. Scientists switch off autism symptoms using a $3 epilepsy drug, apparently. Scientists are reporting a breakthrough discovery. A $3 bill may be used to switch off autism symptoms in mice, according to... That's not a mouse, by the way, that's a child. Used as an example. Small child, but bigger than a mouse. The autism spectral disorder, ASD, is a complex developmental condition that impacts an estimated 5.4 million adults and 1 in 44 children in the United States. And they reckon that this miracle $3 epileptic pill will switch it off. But I'm always worried about stuff that they give you that is affecting the brain. Brothers trapped under rubble for nearly 200 hours rescued during Turkey earthquake. 2 brothers were among at least 7 people miraculously rescued from the quake rubble on Tuesday, nearly 200 hours after massive tremors rocked the region, killing more at that time than 37,000 people. One of the siblings survived by drinking protein powder, while another survived, said he was playing video games when his building came down. So yeah, the PC monitor. Strong stuff, you see. Who says gaming's bad for you? Saved his life. It's a good thing. A Michigan State shooting survivor also endured 2020 Sandy Hook massacre. Now, how unlucky do you have to be? Or lucky, depending on how you look at it. A college student who survived the deadly shooting that killed 3 students and critically wounded 5 others last night at Michigan State University was also at the horrific Sandy Hook massacre over 10 years ago. I am 21 years old and this is the second mass shooting that I have now lived through, Jackie Matthews said to an emotional TikTok video shared earlier on Tuesday. Yeah. I mean, I know Andy Murray was involved in the Dunblane. He was a child at Dunblane when the only school mass shooting ever happened in the United Kingdom, because gun laws got changed straight away because we act on these things. And I'm pretty sure that whenever he wins anything, he always goes like that, and I think it's for his mates who didn't survive. And yeah, gets me emotional, that. US can't find remnants of downed objects, Kennedy says, as Blumenthal calls for more transparency. Lawmakers call for more transparency from President Biden and on the unidentified flying objects that were shot down over the US and Canada. But they can't find them because they were tiny, 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 small, tiny, like a mouse, tiny, 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 tiny. So I was just waiting for time there. Navy confirms it made some changes to Super Bowl flyover, quietly shifting to all-female pilot team. The US Navy told Fox News Digital that it made some changes to the original lineup of aviators for the Super Bowl flyover, which allowed for an only women pilot team. Why? I mean, all you see is 4 planes flying over the stadium for a second. Whether the male, female, trans, whatever, you don't know. You don't see them. You just see the planes. So why are they making a big deal about making it all female? And what's wrong with the male pilots? They're not flying anymore. Has it become impossible for male pilots to fly? I get very confused very easily. US Sidewinder missile that missed object landed harmlessly in Lake Huron. Well, that's good news, isn't it? Because the missile missed its target, and then you remember that actually when it misses its target, it just keeps going. But it landed harmlessly in open water. What a miracle. Can you imagine if it had landed, heaven forbid, in a built-up area? And China are mocking you already, America. Imagine if you'd killed many people with your own missile that missed the target you were aiming at, that didn't have any evasive manoeuvres. America, eh? Gotta love it. MSU student who survived second shooting, it's not stopping. After living through 2 school shootings at Michigan State University on Monday and Oxford High School in Oxford Township in Michigan in 2021, so another girl who's been through 2 shootings, Emma Riddle said it's starting to feel normalised, and that is not acceptable. The 18-year-old college freshman was showering late on Monday inside Hubbard Hall when another undergrad knocked on the door of a bathroom to alert her to a gunman. Yeah, it's normalised. It's normalised already in America. And the rest of the world looks at America and goes, what is wrong with you? Seriously. What is wrong with you? China threatens retaliation against US for shooting down spy balloon. China warned on Wednesday that it will retaliate against the US for allegedly undermining its sovereignty after the Air Force downed a spy balloon earlier this month. To be fair, if anyone's sovereignty has been overwhelmed, it's definitely the American sovereignty, because your spy balloon is over America. And yeah. See, look, Nicola Sturgeon even made it to American news. But they're going on a different route. They're going about the transgender laws, which, I mean, I criticised from day one. Not because I'm anti-trans at all. But I think that if you make it easy for someone, particularly from male to female, to trans in 6 months without any psychological, medical assessments, then you're opening a door wide open for perverts to say, well, if I pretend to be trans for 6 months, I can then go into girls' changing rooms. I can go into, the swimming baths, go into the girls' changing rooms and all that kind of stuff. And you're just opening a massive can of worms. Now, I'm not saying that's why she resigned. I'm wondering if there's something that someone's got on her that's due to come out maybe in the next week or so, that would mean that she'd have to resign. She's found out about it and has resigned before that has come out, because that seems to be the norm as well, doesn't it? Anyway, Scottish leader Nicola Sturgeon unexpectedly resigned on Wednesday following months of outrage over relaxed transgender laws that allows rapists to be sent to a female prison. They're over-egging it a little bit. Sturgeon said she was stepping down, proud to having been the first female and longest-serving First Minister, calling it the privilege of her life to have led the country's devolved government for 8 years. But yeah, I reckon there's something going to come out at some point, and we'll be all like, oh. And she was in charge for how long? The Oscar Mayer Wienermobile falls victim to catalytic converter theft during Las Vegas stop. And you're like, what? Even one of the most notable vehicles in America was not immune on the uptick in catalytic converter thefts across the country last week. The iconic Oscar Mayer Wienermobile was hit by thieves at some point on Thursday night while located at the parking lot of the Sonesta Suites on Paradise Road in Las Vegas. She was too transparent. Oh dear. Oh dear. Like I said earlier, though, I hope they get someone who's got another fishy name to take over, because that's how it should be. Brian Codd or Phil Haddock, something. Anyway, let's move on. White House says thousands of objects in skies could be used White House says thousands of objects in skies could be used car lot balloons, not aliens. Well, we know about the not aliens bit, but they're now saying that some of the objects that they're finding in the sky could be the balloons that Americans have over their car lots to get people to go to their car lot. They have this bright thing, and then sometimes the cable snaps and the balloon goes up into the air. And you're like, yeah, okay. I think B&Q used to have balloons like that, but I've not seen one for a long while. But I mean, one thing we can all agree on is they ain't aliens. Next. Ex-Indiana daycare director accused of giving metatonin to kids at nap time. And you're like, what? An Indiana daycare director was fired after she allegedly admitted to doling out melatonin to lull children to sleep without parental approval. I wouldn't give parental approval for my child being drugged at nap time, or any time for that matter. But get this. The former head of the Kids Life Childcare Ministry at New Life Church is facing multiple charges after she and another worker allegedly gave 17 small kids, whose ages ranged from 1 to 4, metatonin gummies without their parents' sign-off. So not only are you giving them drugs without even medically checking about any issues that they might have with that, but you're giving them in sweet form. Banksy artwork highlighting domestic violence dismantled by local council. A new artwork by British street artist Banksy highlighting domestic violence against women was partially dismantled by the local council that claimed it was unsafe. The piece, which features a 1950s era housewife with a swollen eye and a missing tooth, apparently pushing a man into a chest freezer, appeared on Sunday night on the side of a private house in Margate, in the seaside town about 17 miles northeast of Canterbury. Yeah, Margate can be. I was thinking of Brighton then. I went to see Banksy exhibition in Manchester, well, in Salford, and I thought it was brilliant. I filmed it. It's on one of my videos. If you go to my travel videos and look at on the buses, and you'll see the Banksy one there, and you'll see when I got there, and I did some really arty shots of going in and zooming out and going around and all that kind of thing. And I love Banksy stuff, but more about that in the "and finally" section. Used to be funnies, still funny, but it's finally instead of funny. It was no mistake, Chinese balloons hinting to an attack. Make no mistake, China incursions onto our airspace look like a prelude to an attack. What? The balloon then flew near both F.E. Warren and Minot Air Force bases, which house the remainder of America's Minutemen III wings. The balloon also passed close to Whiteman Air Force Base, home to the nuclear capable B-2 bombers. I think someone's getting a little bit overexcited. I think China would be risking a lot by invading America. So yeah, Basically, get yourself back in your box. Science needs to stop using terms like male, female, mother and father, researchers say. Yeah. Alternatives like male and female and mother and father should be sought. Alternatives to terms like male and female and mother and father should be sought in science because they assume that sex is binary and heterosexuality is the norm, a group of researchers from US and Canada suggests. Male and female should be instead referred to as sperm producing and egg producing. The Ecology and Evolutionary Biology Language Project said. Sperm producing and egg producing. What happens if you're trans? It's a bit like that stupid students of Manchester University who said we shouldn't clap when we're at concerts or at a theatre or anything like that, or a sports event, because it could disturb people who have get scared by loud noises. So what it should do is jazz hands instead. And the interviewer said, genius, said, okay then, so you're including everyone, so everyone can enjoy without being scared by, loud noises, clapping and cheering, all that kind of thing. She said, yeah, sure. What about blind people? And her face just went, are you including them? Interview ended. It was superb journalism. But yeah, I mean, there are some people, some scientists, who should be looking at more important things. Like curing stuff and saving the planet, rather than coming up with stupid names like sperm producing and egg producing instead of male and female. Absolute ridiculous. The US diverts 4 Russian warplanes flying near Alaska. Now, I don't know whether you're aware or not, but whenever you look at a map, America's at one side and Russia's at the other side, and you're like, wow, look at that, they're miles apart. But we're a globe. When you bring them round, they're next to each other. It's just that for both of them, it's a bit of a trek across their own country to get to the other one. So it's actually easier to go the other way around. And so Alaska is very near to Russia. I mean, we're talking, I don't know, even if it's 100 miles, it's not a long way from Alaska to Russia. But it's just the really crappy part of Russia that no one lives in, Siberia and that kind of thing. So for planes to fly over American soil, it's easier probably to do it that way around. But if you're attacking, they do it from the east rather than attacking from the west. It's very complicated. But the US diverted 4 Russian aircraft flying near Alaska on Monday, what government officials called a routine intercept. So they weren't that bothered about it. They just said, kindly bugger off and leave us alone. And they kindly did. Now, woke. Again, I mean woke, Californian Democrats want to ban police dogs from biting suspects. I mean, literally, that's the deterrent of a police dog, is you're going to get bit. Ergo, stop doing what you're doing and do what the police say. But no. Californian canine cops could soon be all bark and no bite. 2 state lawmakers introduced a bill that would ban law enforcement agencies from using police dogs in situations where the animals could bite someone, saying the practice is deeply radicalized and the use of police canines has inflicted brutal violence and long life trauma on black Americans and communities of colour. Now, if you're doing something wrong and the situation's got to the stage where there's a police dog there, you're obviously doing something very wrong and you've not stopped doing whatever it is that you're doing very wrong. Whether you're black, white, again, blah, 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 blah. So, if the only way they can stop you from doing what you're doing is by sending in a police dog, what's it going to do? Lick you to death? Expect you to pat it and then you go, oh, and you forget what you're doing and the police jump on you? I mean, I think it's more important that the police stop shooting black people rather than having dogs stop biting people. But again, what do I know? I'm British. I'm not American. I don't think like Americans. But some of these people, seriously. We need a message from God. Not that he exists, but you know what I mean. Oh, there we go. The breathtaking moment, lightning struck Rio's Christ the Redeemer. A photograph captured the breathtaking moment, lightning struck the Christ the Redeemer statue in Rio de Janeiro on Friday. The once-in-a-lifetime photograph, which has gone viral on social media, shows a bolt of lightning hitting the head of the nearly 100-foot tall statue, the largest depiction of Jesus in the world. It is an amazing picture, but it also looks like Doctor Who regenerated. Hashtag just saying. I think even the Americans will get that one. Who? Complete coincidence. Not Doctor Who. The World Health Organization calls urgent meeting after Marburg virus outbreak kills 9 in Africa. And we brought this up last week. The World Health Organization convened an urgent meeting in response to an outbreak of the deadly Marburg virus in Africa. At least 9 people have been confirmed to have died from the world's first ever outbreak in Equatorial Guinea, prompting WHO officials to meet to discuss progress on vaccine and treatment candidates. It's one of the deadliest diseases known to man. So yeah, COVID, that was just an aperitif. This one's gonna kill you. Something to look forward to. Russia has already lost the war in Ukraine, says General Mark Miley. That must be true then. Russia has already lost its barbaric war of aggression in Ukraine, the United States' highest-ranking military officer declared in Brussels on Tuesday, as the bloody invasion nears its one-year anniversary. President Putin thought he could defeat Ukraine quickly, 6 weeks if I remember rightly, fracture the NATO alliance and act with impunity. But no, he's got that very, very wrong. Putin, not necessarily the general, but I'm pretty sure the war hasn't been lost yet. It's not going the way that he wants it, but it's not been lost yet. Iran may have gifted thousands of assault rifles to Ukraine, which is very generous. The US may transfer thousands of assault rifles to Ukraine after the US Navy confiscated the weapons and ammunition from Iranian smugglers on the way to Yemen. So, yeah, lots and lots of guns, lots and lots of ammunition were found being transported to Yemen to oppress their people, because obviously you've still got civil war going on in Yemen. And instead, they're going to be possibly gifted to Ukraine to fight against the Russians, who are using Iranian drones to destroy the infrastructure and civilian buildings of Ukraine. So basically, you're going to have Iranian weapons fighting Iranian weapons. I think it's genius. I really do. If there's a way of stopping Iran from basically sending drones, that'd be even better. But yeah. State Department vows US will defend Philippines if necessary after China ship blinds crew with military laser. We already discussed that earlier on. But yeah, tensions are rising with China at the moment, and it is very scary times to be involved in any way with anything to do with China. No new objects reported in the last 48 hours, Pentagon says. Oh, maybe all the Martians have gone home. The Pentagon on Wednesday said no more unidentified objects have been detected within the US airspace since the 4th such object was shot down on February the 12th. And that was easy for him to say. Meanwhile, Marburg disease, it's Africa, as WHO confirms outbreak in Equatorial Guinea. The World Health Organization confirmed the presence of an outbreak of the highly fatal Marburg disease in Equatorial Guinea, with Cameroon reportedly seeing cases as well. So basically, it is now spreading through Africa. Oh, just what we need. Meanwhile, Pennsylvania police say sex doll was mistaken for human remains. A sex doll was initially believed to be human remains after a father and son found it inside a bag. I mean, it's America. I suppose the first thing you would think of is, it's America, it's got to be a body, it's probably got bullet holes in it. But no, it was a disused, no longer required sex toy. Nice. North Carolina 6-year-old caught with unloaded gun at school. North Carolina police say a 6-year-old boy was caught on Tuesday morning with an unloaded 9mm handgun in his backpack at an elementary school. The parent should be prosecuted. Simple as. To be fair, it was an unloaded gun, but to be fair, the teacher had some spare ammo, so filled it up for him before they went home, which I think is a nice touch. Obviously that didn't happen. Missing mum, Nicole Bullitt, was visited by police 17 days before her disappearance. Again, what is going on with Lancashire police this time? That's a UK thing. I don't know. What's wrong with the world? The whole world's screwed, isn't it? Conservative commentator Sydney Watson blasts gender-inclusive language as dehumanising. Conservative commentator Sydney Watson has caused a stir after arguing the use of inclusive language for typical gendered labels was dehumanising. A group of researchers from US and Canada suggested alternative to terms like male and female, mother and father should be used in science because they assumed sex was binary. Why are you even discussing this? There are people dying for gunshot wounds in America. That's more important. People dying in Ukraine. There are balloons flying over. Come on. US intercepts 8 Russian fighter jets near Alaska in 2 days. So we had them a couple of days ago. Well, they did it again. But it's normal standard procedure. It happens a lot. It's just that they're reporting it now. A suspected meteorite spotted over Texas as residents report loud explosion. It wasn't a meteorite. It was the aliens trying to get that out of here because all their stuff's been shot down by the Americans. Duh. Well, maybe not. A train carrying hazardous materials derails near Detroit. This isn't the same one. This is a different train carrying hazardous materials, which is now derailed near Detroit. A train transporting hazardous materials partially derailed on Thursday in suburban Detroit, officials said. It occurred about 8:45 a.m. About 30 miles west of downtown Detroit. Aerial footage showed at least 6 cars off the rails, damage to the tracks, and caused severe delays on trains going left and right. Well, obviously it would do. But, America, sort your trains out. America, just sort yourselves out. Teen girl pulled alive from rubble 11 days after Turkey quaked as rescues dwindle. I mean, these stories are getting fewer and farther between, but it's amazing that there are still people surviving. This time a 17-year-old girl survived after 11 days trapped under the rubble. You know, it's just not your time to go. When it's not your time to go, it's not your time to go. Has to be said. American cancer patient develops uncontrollable Irish accent. What? He came down with a bad case of Blarney. An American cancer patient developed an uncontrollable Irish accent in possible neurological disorder triggered by his immune system, according to researchers who studied the medical oddity. The unnamed man in his 50s was being treated for prostate cancer by doctors when he began speaking in Irish brogue accents. Okay. I've heard people having strokes and being able to speak and developing different accents, but not from treatment for prostate cancer. That's a new one on me. Also head injuries as well tend to do that. Get banged on the head and people can speak fluent French. It's weird. Kim Jong-un's daughter, likely chosen one as successor, spelling doom for his sister. The sudden rise of Kim Jong-un's young daughter suggests she's the chosen one to succeed as North Korean supreme leader, potentially to the doom of his once powerful sister. Kim Yu-a, thought to be around 9 or 10, has repeatedly appeared alongside her father at key events since her existence was first confirmed in November. And this week is even honoured on 5 new stamps. If I was his sister, I'd be looking at ways of getting out of there. Because, let's be honest, a bit like Putin, you fall out with the president and you're screwed. Top Putin war official plunges 160 feet to her death from high-rise building. So this is different from the man who committed suicide. A high-ranking Russian defense official in the war against Ukraine was found dead Wednesday after falling from a 16th floor window in an apartment building. Marina Yarnaka, 58, was discovered by a passerby at the entrance of High Street of a high-rise in St. Petersburg. I reckon it was suicide. I'm just saying that because I don't want to be pushed out of a building myself. Obviously. She's done something to upset Putin. Rare firefall stuns visitors at Yosemite National Park. Nature can be pretty lit. A breathtaking firefall illuminated Yosemite National Park on Wednesday when the sunset cast on a waterfall made it appear to be a trickle of lava or flame. The rare natural phenomena wired visitors at California's park Horsetail Falls, a small waterfall that flows over the eastern edge of El Capitan. When the sun is at the correct angle, mid to late February, a clear sunset can backlight the falls, causing the water to briefly glow bright orange. So yeah, it's only a couple of times a year. I mean, I suppose ancient times that would be classed as some kind of miracle, and the gods and all that kind of stuff. China sanctions Lockheed Martin Raytheon for Taiwan sales. China on Thursday imposed trade and investment sanctions on US military contractors Lockheed Martin and Raytheon for supplying weapons to Taiwan, stepping up efforts to isolate the island's democracy claimed by the ruling Communist Party as part of its territory. Basically, this is going to start a tit-for-tat sanctions. No doubt, I'll be reading next week that America have done tit-for-tat sanctions for something else. I don't know what. I'll think of something. It's fine. Don't worry about it. We've already done that one, haven't we? Have we already done that one? Where are we? Oh, there we are. Yeah, we've already done that one. We're down here now. Not up there, but you want about. Silly boy. New York shootings leave 2 men dead on Wednesday. America, sort yourselves out. 2 men were killed in separate shootings within the span of about 5 hours in the Bronx and Manhattan on Wednesday night. I mean, you know, if you think this is how life should be and, you know, could be and will be, I don't know what we're supposed to do for you, America. Rare footage of Titanic shipwreck released to the public for the first time. Extraordinary and never before seen footage of the Titanic's wreckage was released on Wednesday, unravelling some of the deep-sea mystery behind the sunken ship. Video of the 1986 expedition that runs 80 minutes long was released by the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution to coincide with the 25th anniversary release of the movie Titanic in theatres. I mean, talk about a tenuous link. You've had it since 1986. Couldn't you have released it when the movie came out? As it happened, I couldn't even bother looking at it, so yeah. 1 dead, 3 injured after gunman opens fire in El Paso Malfood Court. At least 1 person was killed after a gunman opened fire in a Texas food mall court on Wednesday. America, seriously. Just seriously, please. Meghan Markle's half-sister claims Duchess made up rags to royalty narrative. Meghan Markle's half-sister appeared in virtual court on Wednesday in a defamation case against the Duchess of Sussex. Her own family are fighting against her now, where she claimed the royal tarnished her name by fabricating a rags to royalty narrative. Samantha Markle sued Meghan in federal court in Florida for making demonstrably false and malicious statements about her to a world audience during her and Prince Harry's bombshell interview with Oprah Winfrey. Even a family are going against her now. It can't get any better, can it? It really can't. I mean, seriously, you get everything you deserve. Massachusetts man shot brother in head during dispute over sale of their home. America. Seriously. Do I need to say this multiple times? Every week. You need to sort your gun laws out. You need to sort yourselves out. You need to sort everything out. Biden says 3 aerial objects that US shot down likely not related to China surveillance. President Joe Biden said on Thursday the 3 objects that shot down in recent days were likely not from China but from private entities. Good evening, Daniel. Hope you're well. Biden has full confidence in Mayor Pete after second train derails with toxic chemicals in Ohio. Alas, someone's got confidence in people who run the trains down in America, because I don't live there, but I haven't got confidence. Cotton slams Vice President Harris for refusing to acknowledge scale of China threat. Senator Tom Cotton slammed Vice President Kamala Harris for saying the recent US downing of a Chinese surveillance balloon shouldn't impact relations between Washington and Beijing. No, there's plenty of other stuff that should impact the relations between Washington and Beijing. The problem is Washington relies a lot on Beijing at the moment, and that's where the issue starts. Prince William has a wry smile over Southport digs at Harry. Says a royal insider, so they're just making this up, but it's probably true. His Highness may be getting a kick out of his animation humiliation. Prince William's funny bones are in for a good tickling owing to the recent thinly veiled slings aimed at his estranged brother Harry and Meghan Markle via the Comedy Central animated series South Park. And royal experts predict that the Prince will be struggling to maintain his composure at the sight of the cartoon depictions of the exiled Duke and his wife. And let's be honest, as someone said on a TV programme, they were very generous with his hair, has to be said. He's a lot more hair than he's actually got, as poor Prince Harry in the thing. Been really shocking. All the shootings in America, even more in countries now. I tune this live stream fortnightly drunk. I do them fortnightly. No, I do them weekly drunk. Trans teacher with Z-size prosthetic breasts dresses as a man outside of school, neighbour says. Now this trans person, I get confused now because I thought they were implants, but they're not. Anyway, has made regular appearances on this programme. The Canadian teacher who made international headlines, including on What a Week That Was, it doesn't say that but it should do, for wearing gigantic prosthetic breasts, rarely wears them outside of school. I'm not surprised, do his backing, raising questions if the vulgar costume is just an act. While parents have raged about transgender teacher Kaylee Lemarck being allowed to wear Z-cut prosthetics in front of students, the shop teacher was spotted ditching the controversial fetish wear for standard male apparel whilst doing his shopping. But to be fair, you wouldn't be able to push a trolley with them on, would you? So, I mean, they are huge. Huge. We were on about tiny before, but we're on about huge now. Here's a look at Putin's train. That's his armoured train, because he's scared of flying, because he thinks people will kill him. Yet he thinks that everyone in Russia loves him. I mean, talk about mixed messages. Come on, mate. You're either everyone hates you or everyone loves you. Either way, just get out of Ukraine. Japan covers 7,000 new unknown islands after a fresh survey. 7,000. We've got satellites. A satellite could detect, I would have thought, 6,500 of them in 5 seconds. The number of official islands in Japan is expected to double from 6,852 to 14,125. after the government conducted its first survey since, get this, it was only 1987 last time they looked. There were satellites then. I thought Japan was like the top of, but they can't even count their own technology. They can't count their own islands, yet they're this technologically advanced country. I mean, it's not like they're popping up all the time. I know they had the massive earthquake and maybe one or two popped up then, but 7,000? You'd think you'd notice, wouldn't you? Louisiana cop arrested for shooting dead unarmed black man as he fled. The black man, not the copper. A white Louisiana police officer has been arrested for shooting and killing an unarmed black man who was trying to run away during a domestic call, authorities said. After reviewing footage from officers' body cameras, state troopers charged the officer with neglectful homicide. America, just sort yourselves out. Sort your gun laws out. Sort your police out. Sort your schools out. Sort your president out. Sort your bloody senators out. Just sort out your fucking country. Seriously. What is wrong with you? Seriously. R. Kelly could die in prison. Well, at least there's some good news. That's all we need to know, isn't it? It should, maybe a better word. But anyway. Love meat tender. Cops in Alaska rescue a hog named Elvis Pigsley. Elvis Pigsley. Get it? He ain't nothing but a hound hog. Police in Anchorage, Alaska, rescued a pet porker named Elvis Pigsley from a frosty roadside after an onlooker reported that the critter looked cold, according to cops. Officers said they loaded up the shivering swine into their cruiser and brought home the bacon. As it turns out, the portly dude was quite friendly. You'll be happy to know he has been reunited with his family and all is well. That's lovely, isn't it? Elvis Pigsley. I've told this story before, but it reminds me, Jin, it reminds me of a story that I've told a few times. When I was a kid, I used to babysit like near neighbours' children, and they had a tropical fish tank, and they said to me once, "Oh, we're going to the tropical fish shop, do you want to come with us?" And I'm like, well, I'm not really into tropical fish, and I haven't got one, I haven't got a tank or anything. Oh, it's alright, you can buy a fish and keep it in our tank, you're around all the time anyway, you know, blah blah blah. Okay then, fair enough. So I went with them, and I chose this really smart looking shark thing. It looked like a shark. I mean, it wasn't a shark, but it looked like a shark. And it was black as black can be. But it had bright orange fins, bright orange dorsal fin, and bright orange tail. And it just looked cool. So I went, oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, we like that as well. Yeah, go on, we'll have that one. So we get back, and we put it in the tank, and it swims around. Nothing happens, you know. It just swims around happily and everything. And all the other fish swimming around and everything. And they said, what are you going to call it? I mean, what do you mean call it? Well, you've got to give it a name. I don't know. Have I? Well, yeah, it's a pet. I'm like, yeah, but it's a fish. Well, yeah, go on, give it a name. And it was the 80s. So I called it Fergal. As in, Fergal Sharky. Because it was a shark. Fergal Sharky. A good heart these days is hard to find. A good love, the lasting kind, was in the charts at the time. It was amazing. It was like great. Lasted about a month and then died. But yeah, Fergal Sharky. So I remember him to this day. Oh, her. No idea whether it was a male or female. But yeah, Fergal Sharky. Elvis Pigsley. US completes Chinese spy balloon recovery off South Carolina. Hurrah! Will we ever find out what was in the the balloon? I very much doubt it. I'll be honest with you. I don't think we shall. I think it's one of them things that they will keep under their hats. A 3-year-old son of Florida corrections officer fatally shoots himself. A 3-year-old son of a Florida corrections officer, i.e. I don't know, it's a prison warder or something similar, shot himself this week after his parents went grocery shopping and left his 16-year-old sister in charge. Now, I'm not casting aspersions or anything on what actually happened there, but the fact that there was a gun that was accessible by a 16-year-old and a 3-year-old in a correction officer's house, of all the people who should know how to look after these things, is unforgivable. And he should 100% face charges, because again, I don't understand how this just happens all the time. 5 Memphis police officers plead not guilty to the death of Tyre Nichols. 5 former Memphis police officers pleaded not guilty on Friday to second-degree murder and other charges in the violent arrest and death of Tyre Nichols. I mean, for God's sake, throw away the key. Or better still, put them in stocks and then just leave them in the district where Tyre Nichols lived, and let people throw rotten fruits at them and stuff like we did in the medieval days, because that'll teach them. 2 Orthodox Jews shot outside LA synagogues. Suspect arrested for hate crimes. Now, I appreciate that these are Jewish people being shot and therefore anti-Semitic, blah blah blah. But surely anyone shooting anyone is a hate crime, regardless of whom they are. But anyway, a suspect has been arrested for 2 separate shootings of Orthodox Jewish men who were ambushed while leaving synagogues in Los Angeles this week. The attacks took place on Wednesday and on Thursday, and they've been connected and they've been investigated as hate crimes. But like I say, anyone with a gun who shoots someone is committing a hate crime, regardless of who the shooting. Yeah. Anyway, duck. Solar storm speeding towards Earth could affect radio and GPS signals. A massive explosion was spotted on the sun on Wednesday and now astronomers are keeping a close eye on how it may impact us here on Earth in the coming days. The geometric storm watches that will run from February the 16th to 18th, so this is the last day of it, due to the continuing effect of the coronal mass ejections, or CME. I had a mass ejection once. I got chucked out of a cinema with all my popcorn. The G1 minor storm watch will be in action for the next week or so. Yeah, we've done UK, mate. Do UK first. It was hilariously bad and sad and tragic. You're better off watching from now on because I'm in mid-stride now. It always takes me a while to get going. Chinese billionaire tech banker Biofan goes missing. Oh. One of China's most high-profile bankers, billionaire investor Biofan, has gone missing, marking the latest disappearance of a top executive in the tightly controlled country. China Resistance Holdings said in a marketing update that it has been unable to contact its chairman and CEO in recent days. His disappearance is one of a series of cases of prominent Chinese executives going missing with little explanation amid President Xi Jinping's sweeping anti-corruption campaign. I'm a late arrival, apologies. You're alright, don't worry about it, at least you've arrived. Better late than never. And plus, you can watch this anytime because it saves itself. So don't worry about it, it's fine. Shocking video captures a Virginia boy 12 being bullied and choked on a bus. Now this follows the video in I think it was United Kingdom where a girl was beaten up on a bus. But this is a Virginia mum has shared a horrifying video of a 12-year-old son being attacked on a school bus by a female classmate who left him with red marks and bruises after choking him in the shocking display of bullying. Taylor Brock, whose son is a 7th grader at Walt Whitman Middle School in Alexandria, posted the distressing footage of the incident on her blog on Monday. Yeah, horrendous. What is going on? Kids I said earlier on about the horrific stabbing of Brianna, nearby here, within 20 miles of where I am. The kids now seem to think they can do anything and get away with anything because no one can do anything to them. And for the most part, it seems that they're right until they go too far. And they're going too far, and so nothing happens. A JFK Airport power outage forces a 16-hour flight to make a U-turn. A power outage at JFK Airport forced a New Zealand flight to divert its travel plans during its 8-hour journey to the Big Apple. International flights in JFK's Terminal 1 were brought to a standstill on Thursday when a fire caused a major power disruption. Travellers were required to travel to alternative terminals and airports or come to terms with having to travel on a different day. On one Air New Zealand flight, they actually flew back to New Zealand, which I don't really get. There's other airports in America they could have landed at. But more of that when we get to Australian news. Yep, we're still doing Australian news. Australia, good day sport. Shooters to kill feral cows in New Mexico. I mean, what the hell is a feral cow when it's at home? I mean, a feral bull, maybe. But a feral cow? Anyway, gunmen will hop into a helicopter and take down feral cows in New Mexico wilderness next week in a scene straight out of an action movie. Now, I can't think of any action movie other than maybe The Lion King, but they're buffalo that kill Simba's dad. But anyway, let's go with it. The hunt is meant to protect areas of the vast Gila wilderness and was approved by US Forest Service managers. The Gila National Forest okayed the plan is an environmental conservation. 150 cattle apparently are damaging the area, so they're going to shoot them all. Because that's what you do in America, isn't it? Guns, guns, guns. And then more guns. And then, for good measure, let's chuck in some guns. And then some jet fighters. North Korea threatens unprecedented action over Allied military drills. North Korea threatened on Friday to take unprecedented, constant, strong responses if South Korea and the United States press ahead with a planned military drills, accusing the Allies of raising tensions in the region. In a statement carried out by state media KCNA, the North Korean's foreign ministry also said it would consider additional military action if the UN Security Council act under the influence of the United States of America. To be fair, the UN is a separate entity. The United States are merely a part of it. But either way, someone's a bit upset. It's a shame, isn't it? Now, I'm not one to judge people. You know that. I'm very open-minded. So for that very reason, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to move on to the next item. Teen arrested in New York City shooting outside a school that wounded 3. This is normal in America. That's what gets me. This is so fucking normal in America. I feel like if you're born in America and you go all the way through education and you end up leaving university, that it's probably a miracle that in some point in that schooling you've not been involved in a school shooting. I know that's over exaggerating considerably because there are many thousands of schools in America, and although there are not many thousands of shootings at schools, it certainly feels like there are many hundreds, particularly over a period of starting at not junior high, what they call it, nursery school to leaving university. That's a long period of time. So how many mass shootings at schools would there be if you're leaving university now? How many mass shootings would there have been in schools whilst you've been at school? Not necessarily in your school. It's normal, and I don't understand why the majority of Americans can't see it as being bonkers, beyond bonkers. I mean, it's It's scary. It really is. But no, still goes on. A 6-year-old Florida girl shoots grandmother from the back seat of a moving vehicle. A 6-year-old Florida girl accidentally shot her grandmother from the back seat of a moving vehicle. The grandmother is expected to recover. Let's leave the gun on the back seat of the car with my 6-year-old granddaughter. I mean, I've got a 5-year-old grandson, and I wouldn't leave anything on the back seat with him in the car. Never mind a loaded gun. Elderly Florida woman shoots armed intruder dead at 3 a.m. and it's described by the police as decisive action and it stopped the threat. An elderly woman in Florida shot and killed an armed intruder in an incident at the local that the local sheriff says is a perfect example of why law-abiding residents should own firearms. That is what's wrong with America. Literally, that is wrong with America. Okay, the guy going in the house shouldn't have had a gun, but the sheriff is praising the woman for killing someone. China mocks Biden for being blind to the toxic mushroom cloud over Ohio while obsessing over balloons, and I think that's a fair comment. Biden said very little about the train derailments other than he's in full support of the guy in charge of the trains. He's going mad about these bloody balloons. A Tennessee mall shooting leaves 1 critical condition, 2 hospitalised. 3 individuals were transported to hospitals after a shooting in Memphis, Tennessee mall on Thursday evening. America, this is normal. This is not normal anywhere else in the world. They'll be like, oh yeah, but you've only got like 60 million people in the UK. No, 6 million, whatever it is. So, you know, nah. Well, let's tell you what then. Let's do gun crime for the whole of Europe, okay, including UK, and then we'll chuck in all of like Finland and Norway and Switzerland, Sweden and all that. We'll chuck all them in as well, and then we'll chuck in. Oh, let's chuck in North Africa, and I reckon you could even get away with chucking in South Africa. Although gun crime there is rampant, and I still think there'd be less gun crime than what there is in the USA. Ugh. You're a granddad, no way, Elder, you're way too young. I wish. Navy lifts deployment restrictions on sailors not vaccinated against COVID-19, and about bloody time too. Yeah, that's all we need to know about that. Where are we up to? There was over 130 different American stories. We're rattling through them. US Air Force grounds KC-135 Stratotanker fleet over concerns. Little thing, tiny little thing. Their tail may fall off mid-flight. It's only a little problem that they may have. The US Air Force has recently grounded its entire fleet of KC-135 tankers to fix a non-conforming part that, if not addressed, could cause the tail to fall off mid-flight. I mean, what could possibly go wrong with a tanker aeroplane with its wings full of fuel for itself, but the rest of the body full of fuel for the fighter jets and everything? Have its tail come off and crash into the ground? What could possibly go wrong? It's only a minor thing, America. I'd leave at least 1 or 2 in service, because you don't want to leave your other airplanes with no fuel, do you? I mean, seriously, Jesus Christ, America, sort yourselves out. I mean, I wouldn't say I like America. I don't know whether I do like America or not. Jamie Tran, who accused of shooting Orthodox Jewish men in LA, had anti-Semitic history. Well, no shock. The man who allegedly shot 2 Orthodox Jewish men in separate incidents in Los Angeles this week had a history of making anti-Semitic threats and told former classmates he wanted to kill them. What a lovely bloke. But like I've said before, yeah, anti-Semitic against the Jews, everything. Hate crime, definitely, but any gun against any other human being, is equally a hate crime. It doesn't matter who you are or who you're aiming it at. It's a gun crime. It's a hate crime. A gunman kills 6 in bloody rampage across Mississippi town. This is normal. Remember, this is normal. 6 people were killed on Friday after a gunman went on a rampage through a rural Mississippi town. The suspect was apprehended following a police chase through Okbutla, a community roughly 40 miles south of Memphis, Tennessee. Yeah, this is just getting ridiculous. I mean, if I did America without the gun crime, I might do that one week. I might do America and not and just exclude anything that says guns. Anything that says guns, and just see how long we're on for. 2 Idaho lawmakers introduced legalization to criminalize giving out certain COVID-19 vaccines. 2 Republican lawmakers in the Idaho state legislature have introduced a bill that would make the administrating of the mRNA vaccines throughout the state a crime. Now, I'm a firm believer that it's your choice whether you're vaccinated or not, and I'm also a firm believer that you should uphold the wishes of somewhere where you go for their beliefs as you're a guest, i.e. Djokovic in Australia last year, for example. But to criminalise giving the vaccine, I think is, well, it's either insanity, or if it does turn out that there's a problem with the vaccine and everyone who's been vaccinated is going to turn into a zombie in 3 years' time, it's genius. But I think it's probably going to be insanity. Horrified store owner saw a 17-year-old die in a shop during El Paso Mall shooting. A grill store owner described the horrifying scene as she watched a 17-year-old die inside a shop during Wednesday's shooting. An argument between 4 young men identified as being in their late teens to early 20s broke out in front of Greatest Grills near the food court of the mall. Again, horrendous. Like I've said before, it's not just the victims and it's not just the families of the victims, it's the people around who also get to suffer as well. It's just, but it's normal and they don't get it. Boy 5 among 9 kids injured in a shooting at a Georgia gas station. So it's a boy of 5 among 9 kids injured at a shooting. The victims age in range from 5 to 17. And no arrests have been made. Because it's normal in America. Why would you arrest someone for shooting someone in kids in the petrol station? It's fine. Seriously, I am getting lost for words. Understatement of the century. I've been saying this since February the 26th. Russia has committed crimes against humanity in Ukraine, Camilla Harris says. No shit, Sherlock. Speaking at the Munich Security Conference in Germany, the US Vice President said, "We have examined the evidence, we know the legal standards, and there is no doubt these are crimes against humanity." Wow, she's intelligent. Imagine her being president. She can work out crimes against humanity. Jersey Shore boardwalk, Crooked Carney's balls were too big. It's a problem we all share. Oh no, hang on. The Jersey Shore has Inflategate, a Wildwood Carney rigged games on the boardwalk last summer by overinflating basketballs so that they wouldn't fit through the holes of the nets that the kids and the adults were aiming for. They got a $15,500 fine, but I imagine they took a lot more money than that. You're good at this news reading, you should be on Sky News. I fluff my lines more than bloody President Biden, but to be fair, I've not read them in advance and I don't repeat the same thing over and over and over again. Plus, there's a hell of a lot of stories to get through. I'll be honest with you, there's a hell of a lot of stories to get through. South Korea says North Korea fires missiles as allies ready drills. South Korea's military said North Korea on Saturday fired one suspected long-range missile from its capital towards the sea, a day after it threatened to take strong measures against South Korea and the US over their joint military exercises. So yes, they've already started. Kim Jong-un has spat his dummy out and he's all a bit upset. Prince Andrew is keeping an eye on Harry and Meghan Markle's life abroad. Looks like he wants to flee the country, but if I was him, I wouldn't go to America. Just saying. Tragic news. Ghana soccer star Christian Atsu, his body has been found under the rubble in Turkey. Sadly, there were reports that he'd been found alive shortly after the earthquake, but they proved false. And today his body has been found. There was a minute's applause, held at Chelsea and Everton's matches today. Two English clubs he played for. He was currently playing, or he was playing, for a club in Turkey. Horrendous. Again, thoughts, family and friends for everyone who's been affected by the disaster in Turkey-struck Syria. A minke whale likely killed by a vessel strike washes up in Rockaways. There's a lot of whales washing up in America. A 25-foot whale was likely struck and killed by a vessel and was found washed up on the shore of Rockaways. The female minke whale that suffered several broken bones and cut wounds across its body was spotted at 9 a.m. Yeah, there's a lot of whales that are not making it at the moment. Bodies of 18 migrants found in an abandoned truck in Bulgaria, which brings us back to the horrendous case in the UK a year or two ago, where migrants were found deceased in the back of a freezer truck that had been smuggling them into the country. Police in Bulgaria discovered an abandoned truck containing the bodies of 18 migrants appeared to have suffocated to death. It's just horrendous what people are going through to get out of countries that they're in. The problem is we haven't got the infrastructure to take them all in. We'll discuss migrancy another day. Woke. Roald Dahl's children books rewritten to delete references to fat characters and add inclusive gender terms. Roald Dahl will be more than spinning in his grave. He may accept the "you can't call people fat anymore" thing. He may accept that, but it's popular written works from Roald Dahl are being altered by the publisher to remove language now deemed offensive. So mummy, daddy, male, female, boy, girl are also being declared offensive. I mean, it's a children's book, for God's sake, or a number of children's books. What are you going to do? Dub the movies that have been made as well. Celebrity owl that escaped from New York City Zoo amazes officials by catching prey on its own and surviving in Central Park. An owl that escaped from New York City Zoo has become a local celebrity in Central Park and has been seen catching prey on its own and manoeuvring freely around. Who'd have thought? You took a wild animal out of a cage and put it somewhere where it's meant to be, i.e. woods. Admittedly not in the middle of a city, but still woods with like mouse and rats and lots of rats and pigeons and things. You're surprised that it can live there? Really? It's in the brain. Even if it was brought up from an egg and you kept it and then you let it go, it would still know what to do because it's ingrained in its DNA. And if anything, they should just let it live its life out now in Central Park, although no doubt some idiot will go around and shoot it. Reading that next week. California, police say one person was shot outside Tesla factory in Livermore. Police say one person was shot outside a Tesla factory in Livermore, California. The suspect is still on the run while the victim was transported to hospital. Unbelievable. Really is. We're nearly at the end now. The American. We've got a good story here. A Vietnam veteran's dog tag was found in a rice field and returned to the family 57 years later. And the family say it means the world to them. The family of late veteran Late Vietnam veteran Corporal Larry Hughes received his dog tag after the ID was lost in the Da Nang province of Vietnam 57 years ago. And yeah, it's bringing a little bit of him home, and I think it's a nice thing for the Vietnamese to do, to actually, rather than just chuck it away or whatever, they've actually gone to the trouble of handing it into the correct people, and it's found its way back to the family. Biden responds after serial shooting in Tate County, Mississippi, leaves 6 dead. Suspect in custody. Biden is actually saying something about shootings in America. Oh my God, it must be Saturday. President Joe Biden called Congress to take action and enact common sense gun reforms after a shooting incident in Tate, Mississippi, left 6 dead. There's more than one shooting, President Biden. Seriously, you should just watch the American part of this broadcast for the last year and a bit, and I reckon we're over 100 shootings. We're probably getting on for 300-400 shootings that I've talked about, because there's more than one a week, and I've done 52 weeks plus how many weeks we're in now, so say 60 weeks. I've done 60 weeks worth, so if we say there's a minimum of 5 a week, that's 300, isn't it? Jesus. And then times that by the number of years that you're at school, blah 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 blah. Chinese officials say NATO is creating confrontations after Chinese spycraft floated across America. No, China. I think China is creating confrontations by letting their spy satellites flow over America. I mean, just me who thinks that. I think anyone with a half a brain would think that. But what do I know? Anyway, the good news is, folks, after however many that was, that is the end of Meanwhile in America. So we'll go immediately to Meanwhile Down Under. Good day, folks. It's my Australian accent. Good day, folks. Well, you scheming Goliath. So what's happening in Australia? A parliamentary inquiry has been set up to look into the closure of bank branches across regional and rural towns. Now this is hitting home here in Wigan, as I did a video recently on the Wigan Watch of how many banks have shut down in our area. But these places, I mean, some of these rural areas have one bank, and the next town is like a 5-hour drive away. So if you want a bank, you've got 5 hours to drive. So I can see why they're getting upset about it. But like I said before, it's not just the UK that's got these problems. It's also America, Australia. It's the rest of the world, isn't it? Let's be honest. What's going on here? Well, this is New Zealand, because obviously New Zealand and Australia get on really well. One of the most severe storms of the century is currently, it was at the time, striking New Zealand, leaving thousands of people without power and forcing Auckland Airport to close. Cyclone Gabrielle has caused widespread flooding from storm surges, and wind gusts of up to 140 kilometres an hour have been recorded. But response centres warn the worst is still to come, and it was. Sadly, there were lives lost. Man wanted after 365 kilograms of cocaine bust. 365 kilograms of cocaine has been found in an overturned boat and washed ashore along the coast, with police now seeking 3 men to help with the investigations. The wanted men are the same men who were involved in an escape rescue off Eclipse Island near Albany, with the large drug haul allegedly found in their capsized boat. So they rescued, let go, and then it found out that there was loads of drugs in their boat. They must have thought Christmas had come again. 7 New South Wales paramedics and doctors among the 72-person team sent to Turkey. Again, it wasn't just the UK that sent people, it was the people from all over the world. Australian volunteers are on the ground in Turkey to assist with disaster relief, although I think the majority of them now have come home. RBA Governor Philip Lowe is set to be grilled today over the impact on the Aussie household of the 9 straight hikes since May. So basically interest rates are going up in the UK, and this is going on probably another hour. No, not an hour. About 45 minutes, I think we'll be done. The hearing comes amid new research that found that the country's major banks will make $14 billion a year in interest from the public through the Reserve Bank. So interest rates going up considerably in Australia is affecting the Australian household, basically. A British man who stole 2,000 Cadbury cream eggs has been convicted in court. That's all you need to know. It was reported in Australia that Cadbury's cream eggs have been nicked, 200,000 of them, and a guy's been done for it. Meanwhile, a wallaby goes for a midnight walk through a tunnel in an Australian suburb, causing the tunnel to close. The captain of the rescued Thai football team has died in the UK. One of the boys rescued with a football team who were trapped in the Thai cave for 2 weeks back in 2018 has passed away in the United Kingdom. Not reported in the United Kingdom, and I would have thought that would have been newsworthy. The cause of death is unclear, but is reported to have sustained a head injury, which is horrendous. You go through all that, like I said before, you know, your time's not up, and you get rescued from, you know, certain death, and then this time, well, it's like fatal. Let's say fatal attraction. God, I hope not. It was only 18. New Zealand's North Island hit by an earthquake. This is whilst they're having a cyclone hit them. New Zealand's Lower North Island has been rocked by a 6.1 magnitude earthquake, the second natural disaster over a matter of days. The quake was centred 50 kilometres northwest of the town of Papamimimim, which is about 10 kilometres north of the capital, Wellington. But yeah, I mean, horrendous. And then you've got this. Man escapes prison disguised as a sheep. You will not believe this. The prisoner is probably feeling a little sheepish after being on the lam. A man serving 15 years for murder in Bolivia attempted to escape from a maximum security prison by wrapping himself in sheepskin as a disguise. Of course, the questions are, where do you get a sheepskin in a maximum security prison? And then it doesn't look like a sheep. It looks like a man with a sheepskin on. So how does it... anyway. Mother sentenced to 9 years after kids die in a hot car. Now, remember last week, there was a guy whose son died in a hot car in Australia and nothing happened. He went on the news saying, don't leave your kids in a hot car. And that was it. But this woman has been charged and sentenced to 9 years in prison behind bars after admitting killing her 2 young daughters by leaving them in a hot car in November of 2019. Horrendous. Absolutely horrible. A stalker, they're calling this crocodile a stalker. It's hunting. It's doing its natural instincts. Anyway, not anymore. It's been shot dead. A huge 4-metre crocodile in Mackay has been shot dead after it was caught aggressively stalking people at a popular beach. It's a crocodile. What do you expect it to do? After multiple reports of the croc stealthily following swimmers, surfers and fishermen at the beach, wild officers decided to mainly kill it on the spot. So they shot it. They should move to America. They'd love it there. Price of coffee tipped to increase. A standard flat white will cost you $1 extra by the end of the year. It's called inflation. It's happening all over the world. It's not just in Britain. I wish people would get this in their head. It doesn't matter who government you are, whether you're Tory, Labour, Republican, Democrat, inflation is everywhere. A landmark $7 billion deal for Brisbane in 2032. It's the Olympics, you know. A landmark $7 billion Olympic funding deal has been struck between the Queensland government and federal government regarding the Paralympic Games. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and Queensland Premier said the funding would be used not only for Brisbane area upgrades but for venues around the state. I didn't know they were that far ahead, 2032. But anyway, there you go. You learn something new every day. Here's another shocker. Cool. The pandemic, along with rising cost of living, appears to have forced people to be more resourceful with their cars. Inflation is forcing more drivers to service their own cars. You mean like your dad did back in the 70s? I mean, I wouldn't know how to do it because my stepfather was disabled and wouldn't show me how to do anything because he wanted to do it himself. So I'm completely useless when it comes to like that. I couldn't do oil change or anything like that. No, God, no, I have to pay to have it done, or I just don't have it done. But yeah, other people's parents used to do cars all the time. So yeah. Passengers on a New Zealand flight bound for the United States have spent 16 hours in the air, only to end up exactly where they started. A New Zealand flight in the air for 16 hours before returning to New Zealand. You'd be fuming, wouldn't you? Why couldn't you have dropped us off at an airport near New York? Or even Miami? And then we could have caught an internal flight to New York. But no, you'll fly us all the way back to pigging place we're trying to get away from. Oh, we've done that one. We've done that one. Why have I done that one again? It's that good. I'm going to show it you twice because I'm useless at car stuff. That's what it is. I'm absolutely useless at car stuff. Miss money penny. One more after this. Inside out unsweetened oat milk and barista oat milk sold at Woolworths stores across Australia have been urgently recalled over biotoxin contamination fears. Now, if you remember last week, we did the top 10 most trusted brands in Australia. And guess where Woolworths was? Number one. Bet if they did that survey now, it wouldn't be number one anymore, especially if you were a vegan. A vicious storm has torn through Sydney's city centre this evening, as in this evening. Well, it's the evening, but still this evening. With a Canadian catamaran falling victim to ferocious winds in Barangaroo. Basically, the video, that red and white thing you can see there, is being flung around in the air, and it's the catamaran that's been smashed to pieces, and people are running for their lives. It's like a mini tornado, but a red and white one. It's scary as hell, and you wouldn't think. You think of Australia, you don't think of stuff like that, do you? The city now faces blackouts, power outages, which I would assume is the same thing, and severe property damage in the aftermath of the storm. I do miss Woolworths on our high streets. Yeah, you know, we talk about Woolworths the other day, actually, in one of the live streams I did. Or somewhere, anyway. And oddly, I don't. Although, first record I ever bought was from Woolworths in Ashton-under-Lyne, and it was the 7-inch single of the Buggles video Kill the Radio Star. Ooh, ooh. First record I ever bought. At the same time, I bought ELO, Last Train to London and Confusion double A side. But I picked up the Buggles first, so technically that was my first ever record purchase. First album I purchased was The Age of Plastic by the Buggles. Or was it Out of the Blue by ELO? Anyway, either way. Long story short, nah. Meanwhile, in India, now I rattle through India, I'll be honest with you. India is like, done. But India is always interesting as well. Why is that hiding there? Let's move that to the top, shall we? Move to top. Boop. There we go. Right then. So what's going on in India? And what is India reporting, more importantly? Because there is a lot of stuff going on around the world at the moment. And India has got a bit, not a lot. Now, I often say that in Britain, health and safety and all that kind of stuff has gone too far. You know, I mean, allegedly making kids wear goggles when they're playing conkers and not allowing to push people off cliffs unless you're a Russian friend of Vladimir Putin. You know, health and safety has gone insane, but you'd be pleased to know in India, nah. 9 injured after a stuntman loses control and rams bike into audience. As many as 9 people, only 9 people, were injured after a stuntman riding a bike lost control and rammed into the audience. I mean, that's basically the wall of death. And look at the audience. I mean, surely to God. I mean, I'm not saying that, you know, they should wrap everyone in cotton wool and all that kind of stuff, or watch it virtually, none of that rubbish, no. But surely they could put maybe a ledge underneath the white, between the wood and the white, whatever that is, just to stop anything from getting up. Just, you know, it don't have to be a big ledge. A little ledge would do it. You know, like maybe it wouldn't affect the view. But seriously? I mean, you know, I'm easily shocked by some things, but that just blew my mind. That is, yeah. What the hell is going on here? What the hell is going on here? What the hell is going on here? What's gone on with? What's gone on with? What's gone on with? There we go. There we go. No, we don't. Do we? No. Excuse me a second. We've just got to sort this out. It's gone horribly wrong. Right, we can carry on now. Yeah, it's working. Wow, that was a bit weird. Never done that before. The crime branch of the Delhi police arrested 2 people for allegedly killing a 48-year-old catering staff by hitting him on the head with a plastic crate after the man failed to get them food plates at a private function. So they've asked the man who works for the kitchen to get plates, and he said no. So they beat him to death with a plastic crate. But in America, they just put a bullet in his head, but still. US military brings down octagonal object flying over Lake Huron near Canada border. Even got reported in India. As did this. Nurses rush to save newborns, even as earthquake shakes up hospitals in Turkey. I mean, heroic. You know, we often say about nurses and doctors and all that, what they do, but I mean, that is above and beyond, isn't it? There's an earthquake. Well, the earthquakes you've ever had in your life, you don't know if your building's going to stand up because it's a hospital, it's a state building, so they probably took shortcuts to save money, but you're still there to protect the babies. Fair play. Now this is Mr. Pradesh was suspended for misbehaving with a restaurant operator. Now I think it's the wording, but still. An assistant commissioner of police, ACP, working in the in Madhya Pradesh's traffic department was suspended on the instructions of the chief for allegedly misbehaving with a restaurant owner. I mean, did you beat them about the head with a crate? I don't know. Bogus doctor cheating people on pretext of buying second-hand phones arrested. And you're like, what? The Mumbai police arrested a man who pretended to be a doctor and cheated many people on the pretext of buying second-hand phones from them. None of that makes any sense whatsoever. Russia reports pressure glitch on cargo ship docked to the International Space Station. What could possibly go wrong? I can't believe they're still letting Russia dock to it, but to be fair, they've got that much involvement in it now that we can't not do. Russia's space agency said mission control specialists had detected a depressurization in the cooling system of the Progress MS-21 cargo ship, which is due to undock from the ISS today. So hopefully it's not causing any problems. If we've heard anything about the ISS falling out of the sky, we know what it is. Depressurization. Shift from ultra-conservative image. Saudi Arabia to send its first female astronaut to space. I wasn't aware they'd sent any male astronauts to space, but either way, it's pretty decent that they're, this ultra-conservative country is letting a woman go. A diplomatic rift widens as US discovers sensors from Chinese spy balloon. Again, fully reported in Italy. Romanian neighbouring Moldova reports mysterious weather balloon-like objects traversing skies. So they're in Europe as well? Surely not. Yes, and don't call me Shirley. Nearly 6,000 Ukrainian children held up in Russian-occupied Crimea for re-education. Though Russian denies targeting civilians intentionally. Yeah, right. A US-backed report has stated nearly 6,000 Ukrainian children have been held on camps in Crimea for the purpose of political re-education. At least 43 such camps and other facilities have been identified where children have been kept. Very similar to the Uyghurs in China are being re-educated in various things Chinese. IT survey still on at BBC's Delhi office. Now this has not been reported as far as I'm aware by the BBC. Officials of the Income Tax Department are still continuing their survey at the BBC's Delhi office in Gandhi Marg, said sources. We'll keep an eye on that one. The BBC? Not paying taxes in India? Surely not. China sanctions Lockheed Martin, Raytheon over Taiwan arms sales. Basically the same thing as what we saw in America news. In fact, same picture as well, thinking about it. 2 killed, 17 injured in head-on collision between 2 vehicles in UP's Mao. A head-on collision between 2 vehicles in Uttar Pradesh's Mao killed 2 people and injured 17 others. One can only assume that one of those would be some kind of public transport vehicle, but again, no further details available. India-Japan joint military exercise, Dharma Guardian, to begin today. A joint India-Japan military exercise will begin today. The exercise will further enhance defence cooperation between both nations. So you're like, what's the nations getting together and being a bit buddy? Russian TV presenter given jail term over call to drown UK children. Yeah, Ukraine children even. In October, Krasovy told state-control-led broadcaster RT that Ukrainian children who saw Russians as occupiers under the Soviet Union should have been thrown straight into a river with a strong current. And he's been jailed for it. I mean, you'd think that he'd be like vice president or something. But no, been jailed. Unless he's been jailed in Ukraine, in which case that's fine. 6 dead in a series of shootings in US Mississippi, suspect in custody. Again, just proving that, you know, the world is noticing that America is completely and utterly out of control with gun crime. There's literally no excuse for anything that's going on there at the moment. And that was the very quick and very brief what's going on in India. So, or should I say, and finally. See what I did there? And finally. I did an and finally. Stuff that's amused me during the course of the week on the internet, because I'll be honest with you, the news has been, well, friggin' depressing, for want of a better description. So, this is stuff that has amused me. It's random. I'm not saying there's any order to it, and some of it is hilarious. So bear with us. I need to shrink this down because this is hilarious. I got some new turkey teeth. Well done, you. I've got a lisp and now can't shut my mouth. I was about an all-nighter. I don't know. I'm not necessarily tired, but we'll see. So Emma went to Turkey to get veneers, but was left in pain and with a lisp. And after the botched transformation, she took to social media to warn others to be careful of cheap offerings. I got some new turkey teeth, but now I've got a lisp and can't fit my mouth, she said. It's a shame, I know, but, you know. Harry and Meghan will speak of nothing but the weather at Charles' coronation. We can live in hope. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are set to attend King Charles' coronation later this year, but will be under strict advice to keep their mouth shut, as loose lips sink ships, or should I say, loose lips sink ships, as the previous woman would say. Bar auctions off 200 hunky men for Valentine's Day, and some got engaged. What? The Couchy Uglies saloon in Camden is getting ready to auction off men to their single women and punters who want to secure a date this Valentine's Day, and pop some questions. Now, I really object when they use my body and put someone else's head on it. I will be writing to the editor of the newspaper concerned. Disgraceful. Carpenter. Oh man, this is in England. Oh God. Carpenter spots face of Jesus inside his cupboard and now plans to open a shrine. The 51-year-old handcrafts bespoke kitchens, and while he was making a kitchen cupboard, he saw the face of Jesus Christ staring back at him in the knot of wood. Right. Are you ready for this? I may have to shrink this to get it in, but we're still... Oh, it fits. To me, that looks like not an Andrex dog, a Dulux dog. It does not look like the face of Christ. I mean, it's... If you listen to the podcast, you've really got to watch the video of this one. How far in are we? Let's have a look. We're about 2 hours and 50 minutes in, so... it's, I mean, it's a dog, isn't it? It's not Christ. It's a dog. It's a shaggy dog. And why's Christ got his tongue out? I mean, it's bizarre. I mean, I can't think of anything more bizarre other than Elon Musk. Says mystery UFOs shot over USO are just my alien friend stopping by. I assume he did it as a joke because he's a funny guy. Mysterious UFO-like objects were shot down over the United States and Canada on 3 occasions in recent days, and now tech billionaire Elon Musk has waded into the conversation, coming out with some right shite. Helpless alligator spotted with jaws taped shut as woman launches bid to save it. A forlorn reptile has had its mouth taped shut for 2 months, with one woman trying to raise awareness and get someone to go into the pond and free the gator's mouth. Yeah, good luck with that. I mean, whoever did it, I mean, the first question would be, why? And the second question would be, how the hell did you do that? But anyway, UFO expert claims new sightings and alien hunters shouldn't be disappointed. It's exciting times for extraterrestrial enthusiasts, a leading UFO expert says, but there's a catastrophic failure of intelligence about the recent sightings across the US. You're not wrong. They're not fucking aliens, you dimwit. Bimbo spends 80k on 3 kilograms of silicone, including huge bum implants. Tattoo artist and model Kitty Inc. has revealed how she underwent an £80,000 transformation, which has left her with 3 kilograms of silicone currently inside her body. And she looks gorgeous for it as well. Again, anyone who wants to do anything they can, or whatever, that's fine by me. Just don't get me to do anything like that. What is the feared Project Bluebeam and why aliens and NASA could be involved? Project Bluebeam was first exposed in the mid-1990s by Canadian investigative journalist. Despite his death 2 years later, the theory has resurfaced in recent days. Whoever resurfaced that theory needs to watch out for high buildings. That's all I'm saying. Unspeakable embarrassment as Spain spends £230 million on trains that are too big for the tunnels. The new fleet of 31 trains intended to serve the regions of Asturias and Cantabria have been delayed because they met standard specifications too big for the old tunnels. So basically, the tunnels, the trains cannot fit in the tunnels. I mean, talk about schoolboy error. You know it's cold outside when you go outside and it's cold. This is from the National Park Service, who might actually get a follow because they will feature again very shortly indeed. This makes your heart warm, doesn't it? A football coach makes a wholesome request. Due to expected severe weather, Monday's weightlifting workout has been cancelled. Find an elderly or disabled neighbour and shovel their driveway. Don't accept any money, that's our Monday workouts. And then there's pictures of loads of kids actually shoveling snow for people, and you're like, yeah, that's nice. There are some nice Americans. People are just realising why testicles are wrinkled and temperature is key. Just realising? Oh, for God's sake. According to experts, the rhino skin effect, now women won't know what we're on about here unless you've got a partner who shares these things with you, sometimes occurs, has a purpose. Yeah, we know, to keep them warm. The whole point of them is to keep them at the right temperature so that little spermy boys and girls can swim at their best ability. If they're too cold, they're a bit numb, and if they're too hot, they die. So but this made news. Wow. I mean, we've only had them for 100,000 years, and species on the planet have only had them for millions of years. But anyway, at least we've discovered what they do. Thanks, scientists. Putin only travels by special armoured trains as he fears assassination. We can live in hope, can't we? Seriously, live in hope. And then we've got Quorn Foods recall frozen Quorn Swedish style balls because they may contain pieces of plastic. And you're like, well, that's not good. But doesn't everything contain plastic these days anyway? And let's be honest, plastic is not carnivorous. It's still vegan, still vegetarian. I'd have kept my gob shut. No, mainly because I don't eat Quorn. You're not shoving that in my mouth. Go away. And then we've got... Oh, I've done that one. It's that funny, we show it twice. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Thought it was Nottingham and Derby Hot Hair Balloon Club until we got close enough to realise it was actually Sam Smith. And this is a Mickey take of Sam Smith's costume that he wore at the... I don't know whether it was the Grammys or whether it was the Brits, but either way, yeah, the guy is an interesting character. Here we go. Are you ready for this? This is genius. This is what I was on about at the beginning of the show 3 hours ago. A man comments on his own wanted poster on Facebook. Right? So the man is commenting on his own wanted Facebook page. Wanted. Anthony Ackers, 38, is wanted by the Department of Corrections for failure to comply. If you have any information, please call blah 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 blah. Yeah, okay then. That's the standard stuff. We get that. Not similar thing, but well, not the same thing, but similar thing on our Facebook from our police. Anthony Ackers, thank you. Tying up a couple of loose ends since I've probably been there for a month. Should be there in the next 48 hours. And then someone else has asked, has he turned himself in? And they've replied, he has not. And then Richard Walker says, Anthony Ackers, a man's word is all he's got sometimes, and it seems like you don't keep your word. This is a wanted man, remember. Wanted man. So then, dear Anthony, is it us? Last Wednesday we reached out to you as wanted. You replied and even said you were going to turn yourself in. We waited, but you didn't show. After you stood us up, we reached out again, this time offering you a ride. You replied and said you needed 48 hours. The weekend came and went. We are beginning to think you were not coming. Please call us any time and we will come to you. This is police department. And then you've got, dear RPD, it's not you, it's me. I obviously have commitment issues. I apologise for standing you up, but let me make it up to you. I'll be there no later than lunchtime tomorrow. I know you have no reason to believe me after what I did to you, but I promise that if I don't make it on my own, by lunchtime tomorrow I will call for a ride to assist me with my commitment issues. Thank you in advance for your response. If you are patiently giving me another chance, and your response, if you are patiently giving me another chance with us, I don't deserve it. P.S. You're beautiful. And then someone's put, I'm crying. And then the last post is Anthony Ackers, here for our date, sweetheart. And he did hand himself in. But it's genius. It really is. I don't know if I'm doing any meals this week or not. I've got to think of stuff that I've not already done. I'll be honest with you. Who likes Winnie the Pooh? Everyone likes Winnie the Pooh. No, maybe not anymore. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. A new micro-budget R-rated, which is X-rated horror film, shows a dark side to the beloved character from the 100-Acre Wood, who are all newly freed from copyright. He's the star of a slasher movie. A low-budget, X-rated movie. Winnie the Pooh. I cannot wait to not watch that. Meanwhile, McDonald's told to remove a tasteless sign after putting it up opposite a crematorium. Now, to be honest, they didn't put it up. McDonald's do not put the posters up. They mainly say, we want so many posters on so many bus shelters, we want so many on the inside, so many on the outside, we want so many big posters up, the massive ones that you see, we want so many video posters and all that kind of thing. So they're not actually technically responsible. It's the people who put the posters up who are responsible, and I reckon they did that for a joke. Because, yeah, it's a crematorium and they're advertising McCrispy, which, to be fair, is one of the vilest things they do. I've reviewed them twice and they are horrendous. Now, remember earlier on, we saw the Banksy, the new Banksy, with the woman who pushed her husband in the freezer. Well, the top picture is the original with the freezer there, and the council come along and they took the freezer away. So then someone's come along and put a wheelie bin there now instead, which is less offensive. But either way, it's pretty good. I'm sure Banksy would approve of that. And then we've got my mate used to work with a fella called Keith. This is nicknames. We asked the internet for their favourite nicknames and they didn't disappoint. My mate used to work for a fella called Keith. He had a missing eye. They all called him Keth, because there's an eye missing from Keith. Keth. I thought I'd have to explain that one, but there you go. My mate at work is tiny and called Tony. His nickname now is Shetland Tony. He absolutely hates it. Shetland Tony. Yeah. There's lots of them. And then man spends almost $23,000 on realistic costume to fulfill his dream of becoming a wolf. And to be fair, if that is it, it does look really, really cool. But I'm sure he can get it for a lot less than 23,000 because you've got that, what's it called, puppy play or whatever it's called, where people dress up as different animals. There was a really cute dog one that I saw that was black and blue. It was black and it had like blue lines. It didn't look like a dog, but it was in the shape of a dog. It was really cool. I wouldn't wear one myself because it's a bit creepy and I don't like being inside things. But it did look cool, and that looks cool as well, but it does actually look like a wolf. But I'm sure there's cheaper options. And then my last slide of the entire session is coming up, and note, it's hilarious. Please do not in showers, sinks or bins. Yep, that's what it says. Basically, people have been having a number 2 in showers, sinks and bins at this establishment, no doubt in America. Yeah, you couldn't make it up. I mean, I have witnessed someone, well, not witnessed, I've witnessed the aftermath of someone having done a poo in a urinal, and it was very impressive. It was a teardrop urinal, so a urinal that goes like that, and then you kind of pee in that bit there, and it had a, where the plug hole is, it had a bit like that on it, which was white, only half of this, and then the water kind of goes in, but this releases a little smell, so it's all nice. And the poo was perfect all the way around. There was no touching of the white bit on the top, there was no touching of the ceramic around the outside, and it literally met point to point. And it wasn't a solid one, it was a fairly soft one, and I was impressed by that poo. It was the, not that I've seen many poos other than my own and the cats, but yeah, you know, babies and things, but other than that, yeah, very impressive. Oh, and one of my housemates who, yeah. Anyway, yeah, very impressive poo, and yeah, obviously it must have, whoever did that must have gone there. And that is it. We are done. After 3 hours and 2 minutes, Smiley Mac appears. Hurrah! Well done. So Angela O'Kane, Marty Hopkirk, Stavros UK, Sean J, Kim Braid, Daniel Giles, and Smiley Mac. I need to get something to eat, and it's already 11 minutes past 11. So yeah, there's plenty of time. I don't know though. I'm kind of addicted to playing Grand Theft Auto at the moment. Although maybe I should stop playing that for a while, because I walked to Wigan today and I saw a electric cable thing. What are they called? Things that hold electric cables off the ground. One of them anyway. And I actually looked at the top of it to see if I could see a signal blocker. And I'm like, I have my daughter asleep now and party is over. Yeah, sorry, but you can. The good news is you can rewind it and watch it from the beginning. There's 3 hours of fun. You can be up until 2 o'clock in the morning watching this. So yeah, there you go there. So thank you very much for watching, if indeed you still are. And all well-being. I will see you again next week. I thought I changed that to Saturday. I did change that to Saturday. Oh yeah, then I went back to Friday again because I missed out some of the Friday stuff. Right, okay then, that makes sense. Yeah, I'm going to change it to Sunday though, so that I don't get it wrong next week, because I get confused if it says Friday. I'll probably change it to Monday though. Anyway, that's it. Thank you very much for watching, if indeed you still are, and all being well, I will see you again